I've come to realize that some of the strongest magic I can do is actually going back to some of these original beginner, I put that in quotations, beginner magic tricks. So even though we're learning things that are more technically simple, the whole point of magic is that people don't know the technique involved. So they don't know if a trick is easy or not. So as we're working through this stuff today, keep in mind that this is might be beginner level stuff, but it's I've chosen a couple tricks that I would be absolutely happy to perform at a professional gig. Like this is, I think I've picked out some good stuff for you. So don't feel like you're getting the short end of the stick, even though you're wherever you are in your magical journey, just starting out or not. This is the good stuff,
So Ryan, were you self-taught using the Mark Wilson book, or did you take classes?
So I got started in magic when I was about 13 or 14 years old, and there was at the time a junior magicians club in Calgary, Canada, where I grew up, which was kind of like this. We'd get together in a group. There was maybe, I don't know, 20 or 30 kids total, but we'd break into smaller groups of 5, and we'd go through kind of like this. That textbook mostly was Bill Tarr's, can't even think of the name of it now.
Now you see it.
Now you see it, now you don't, by Bill Tarr, which is, I see Sarah reaching for it there. So it was a very similar concept to this group. We just had a different textbook. And then by the time, that was about the same time I found that Mark Wilson book at the library. And other than that, beginning workshop, I've been primarily self-taught. I read a lot of magic books, and that's it. For 20 years, I've mostly been reading books. So one thing we wanted to start off with is I don't honestly know where you folks are coming into magic from, and where you're at in your adventure. So some of you may be here never having tried magic before. Some of you may have been working on it for months, maybe years, but we're all coming into this from different points. So I want to make sure that I'm offering complete coverage, even if it's your first day. So some of these things might be familiar if you've heard them before, but we're all in this together to get up to the same point. So that said, I wanted to start with kind of a welcome to the world of magic, because you're on the inside now. This is your initiation process. You're going from being a spectator, an audience, getting a peek behind the curtain, and with that, peek into that world, there's certain responsibilities that come with that, I guess you could say. So
the world of magic is a very special community, and there's, my father is a magician, and he's fond of saying that his father was a dentist, and his colleagues wouldn't share their secrets for how their techniques for bonding teeth. And magicians are so, once you're in the community, are so sharing, and really, love to teach and share and help each other learn. But there are, in order to have a community like that, there are certain requirements. There are ethics. So.
Yeah. And yeah, when you join the SAM, they have, I forgot the exact process, but you kind of have to sign your name to an oath, which I should have pulled up so we could review it. But, one of the big things, of course, is that once you learn these secrets, you're kind of the holder of these secrets, and you have to be respectful of these secrets. And, nowadays, I'm sure you've seen it or heard of it, that YouTube is kind of opening up all these secrets of magic, and everything you want to learn is somewhere on the internet.
I'm fairly sure everybody's heard of YouTube. Yes.
Right, but the fact that magic secrets are being exposed on YouTube daily, you can, whatever. So there's this trend in our modern times that the secrets themselves are losing some secretness. And the risk is that they lose a bit of value along the way. Because when you perform a trick for somebody, the first question, they may not voice it, but the question in their mind is, how did you do that? That's the natural response to seeing a magic trick. How did you do that? And I especially when I was teaching, junior magicians and kids, they will quite often answer that question because they're excited about the secret, and they're excited having learned the secret, and they're excited to share the secret. And then this, I think, is the root cause of why it's all on YouTube. People like to share what they know. But we have to fight that urge, because when you answer that question for somebody, how is that done? You're not giving them anything. You're taking away. You're removing the value from the experience they just had. The truth of the matter is most magic tricks are really, really disappointing. You do a card trick and it's what we would call a simple card trick, but to them it's amazing. It's impossible. It's magic. And when you say, oh, well, it's just this piece of double stick tape, they go, oh. And you can see, like, their whole body just loses that excitement. Oh, that's it. I thought it was like, atomically charged magnets hovering from nano threads or something cool. It's just double stick tape. So the secrets of magic are embarrassingly dull. We have to treat those secrets as if they are more important than they are, because that's part of the mystique of magic. So when they say
magic, not juggling.
Yeah. Juggling is, I know how he did that and it's difficult. But there's a fine line between that and I don't know how he did that. That's impossible. And that's the difference between juggling and magic. Is that openness. So anyway, so the point being that oath that we've taken as magicians to not reveal secrets is not just important for us. It's important for our audiences that we don't reveal secrets. So I just wanted to take a moment to kind of share my thoughts on my feelings about that, and how it's more than just, I know when you don't. It's that gift of mystery that we want to maintain. One of the second kind of core rules of magic is to never repeat a trick for the same audience, because that's another thing that'll come up all the time. You show someone a trick and they say, do that again. And that's a genuine response, that they're excited and they loved it and they want to see it again, but you have to fight the urge to do that, because magic relies so much on surprise. The deception relies on them not knowing where you're going until you tell them. So to repeat a trick for the same audience right away is very likely going to end up with revealing the secret. Most of magic is about things that fly under the radar, that don't get noticed. But if you do them again, they start to notice these things that might seem natural, idiosyncrasies the first time. But if you do it the same exact casual way, it becomes not casual anymore. So repeating the trick, again, takes the theater away. It takes the magic away.
And sometimes, as magicians, we, I think the best metaphor is we shoot the arrow and then we paint the bullseye. And and you can't do it again because you're going to have to paint another bullseye. I can't put the arrow back there. I'm going to have to draw another bullseye, and you're going to see how much I suck at archery.
Yeah.
So now you can, yes, Henry.
Oh, what do you say to the person who asks you to repeat the trick?
Oh, later, another time, the stars are not properly aligned. It's.
Yeah, you can do that.
Go ahead, Ryan. I'm sorry.
I think the best way to do it, to answer that question, is to show them again, but don't do the same trick. Don't tell them you're showing them something different, but you just take a different path.
Oh, that's perfect. That's
You
great.
know, if you have a card picked and it appears in your pocket, and they say, do that again. Well, you can do that again, but maybe it appears in a different pocket. And the fact that they weren't expecting, they were watching this pocket, which means you can still do your trick with your other pocket, you know, or instead of your pocket, it appears in an envelope. Technically speaking, it's probably the same trick, what you have to do to accomplish it. But just the fact that they're watching here instead of watching over there is enough to keep them on their toes.
Or, I mean, I suppose, I mean, if anything, with the same setup and a different finish.
That's right.
So, you know, if you have somebody pick a different card, and instead of doing the trick where you have a card, you know, that you make them pick the card you want them to pick because it's set up in your pocket, you do a trick where you have them pick a new card and you do something else with it.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
I love that, Ryan. That's great.
One of the most challenging tricks with that, because it's such a popular trick and I love it and I do it all the time when I'm doing corporate banquet events, is the signed bill to lemon trick. You've probably heard of this trick. It's a pretty well-known trick. And it's so popular that anyone who's seen a magician before has a very good chance of having seen this trick. But it's one of those tricks that's really hard because someone will come up and say, hey, do that trick where the bill appears in the lemon. And that's like, you can't do that request. So that's the thing where you have to kind of be creative in that moment and think, okay, let's lead them down that garden path to them thinking the bill's going to appear in the lemon, but maybe it appears in the banana beside the lemon. No. So you have to play with people's expectations a little bit. Anyway, I'm getting off track. The third cardinal rule of magic is what?
Practice.
Practice. I should have rehearsed that. So this one I have some personal issues with. But I'll give you the cardinal rule. The cardinal rule is practice, 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 which means you practice a trick so that the technique no longer requires your conscious attention. You know, if you're doing a trick and you know that you have to secretly take a card and put it at the bottom of the deck. If you have to think about that, you have to go, okay, and do that. And that draws all the focus to what you're doing. But if you can do that just while you're talking, it becomes an unconscious act and a lot less obvious. So the importance of practice is that it doesn't draw attention to what you're doing. So you need to practice to be able to do it unconsciously. A part of that, and everyone kind of comes into this in a different way, but a part of that practice is also what you're going to say and how you're going to present the trick. It's not just the technique. Because if you have your technique down and you go to present for an audience and you're going, there was, okay, so there was this thing and, you know, that's another thing that you have to practice is what you're going to say and how you're going to speak. There's a danger here that you take it too far. That's where I differ from a lot of magicians. I think there's a real danger of over practicing certain things. I've never run into that problem, but it's there. Because the danger is, much like rule 2, which was never repeat a trick, if you practice so much that it looks like you're doing something you've done 100 times before, you're taking away that sense of mystery. So I think there's a danger, there's an area you want to be in where you've practiced enough to be able to do it unconsciously, but not so much that you become a robot. There's a happy spot of practice.
Well, that's also where acting comes in.
Acting, yeah. Making it look like you're doing Cats for the first time ever.
Right.
Is the real art of acting, of making it seem spontaneous. So those are the three cardinal rules of magic. Don't expose the secrets. Don't repeat for the same audience because that risks exposing the secret. And practice until you can do things smoothly so that you don't expose the secret. I guess there's only one cardinal
Are
rule
you
of
sensing
magic.
a theme?
Okay. Let's shall we get our deck of cards and move into some magic?
Well, I would also say it's not just so that you don't expose the secret. It's so that you can give the audience the experience that you're trying to give them.
Yeah.
If you blow it in the middle, as let's face it, every magician I know has done at one point or another, then the audience doesn't get the experience that everybody signed on for them to get. If I'm performing something that I don't know well enough or I'm not comfortable enough with, then I can't focus on the person, on my audience, on the person that I'm working with, and fully be in the moment with them and interacting and giving them the performance that I want to give. So it's like, saying know the moves, know the technique is like telling an actor, know your lines.
Right.
Once
Yeah,
knowing
you
the
want
lines
to
is
free your mind from the technicalities.
Yeah.
Just have those down cold so that you don't have to consciously be aware of them. But cards, yeah. And I think another way to express what Sarah was saying is that I think magicians, the veteran magicians, are still struggling to attain one critical thing, which is taking a card trick and turning it into card magic. And as your journey progresses, you'll get your own views on what that means and what it takes to accomplish that. But the difference between a card trick and magic with cards is really where it's at. That's what we're trying to accomplish. Okay, so let's do some card tricks. And we'll start there.
The magic will come later. Trust us.
Yeah. Okay. I will demonstrate a trick and then we'll talk about it and we'll repeat that pattern a couple times.
Okay.
So these tricks from Mark Wilson's book was written before Zoom. I don't know if you realize that. The Mark Wilson book was written before the age of the internet, and so it doesn't account for virtual performances. These card tricks are definitely intended for real life performances, and they involve people doing certain things. So I have to kind of fake it for you in order to simulate that experience of having an audience member here. So this won't be a proper demonstration of the trick for that reason. So you have a deck of cards, and you can shuffle it up. You can have somebody else shuffle it up, and it gets set on the table. You ask them to cut the cards, pick up as many cards they like, and set them to the side. So they would do that.
Okay.
Not you, that's them. So it's completely fair. You ask them to look at the card that they cut too. That'll be their secret card, and I'll try and hide it or hide my eyes so I can't see it. Can you see your card?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to put that in the other pile. Whoops, put that in the other pile. And and this is again, you would pick that up and bury your card so you've lost it into the deck. That's extremely fair. I could be across the room while you do that. This is extremely fair. I'm going to try and sense the card that you chose. I'm going to do it as I deal through the cards. I'm going to try and sense your card coming up, and we'll see if I can find it that way. So
Mhm.
Just try to get in the zone and focus. Okay, okay, think. Okay. The next card I turn over is going to be your card. I feel it. I feel it. You ready?
Mm. Wow.
All right. So that's called the turnover card, page 34 in the book. And one thing I really like about that trick, and this is one of the tricks I performed 20 years ago when I was working on this book. I really enjoy this trick because it's, again, leading people down a path of what they think is going to happen, and then there's that twist. So it's a little harder to see on Zoom, but hopefully you were able to see that I missed your card and was able to come back. And I think, especially as a beginning magician, this is perfect, because I'll break the news to you. When you say, I'm going to show you a card trick, people aren't, their expectations are rather low. It doesn't matter how long you've been in magic. If you say, hey, I'm going to show you a card trick, they go, okay. Card tricks don't have a great reputation because people see their crazy uncle who knows that one card trick and he does it at every family reunion. And sometimes it works, but mostly it doesn't. So this trick has that kind of false sense of failing built into it, which I think makes the triumph that much more at the end.
Mhm.
So that's why I really like this trick, because it has that very miniature version of a theatrical arc where there's all this tension and suspension, the failure and the comeback. Okay, so let's talk about the technique on that. This is in a category of card tricks called key card tricks. And that is because there's one card that becomes my key to identify the position in the deck. I don't actually know your card until I see it. I have no idea what card you pick, but I just know where it is, thanks to my key card. So let's, a very basic example of this would be, well, you could take out any card you like. So that'll be the unknown card, which I don't know. If I look at that card, is my key card, okay? The Jack of Diamonds is my key card. So I know it's there. Your unknown card goes there, and my key card goes next to it. So
Mhm.
I don't know where your card is, but I know my key card. And so if I was to spread through these cards and look for my key card, which is the Jack of Diamonds, right there, I know the card next to it is going to be that secret card. So that's the concept of a key card. If you know one card in the deck and you place it next to the chosen card, you can find their card. The way to do that, and actually the process for the turnover card in the book, is a really fantastic way to accomplish that, because it's completely hands off from you. They set themselves up. All you need to know is the bottom card of the deck. So let's make it something really obvious so we can keep track. There's no card more obvious than the Ace of Spades. That will become our key card on the bottom of the deck.
Okay.
All you need to do is guide them through this process, and they will set the trick for you. You ask them to cut the cards and set them aside. And every time you give instructions in a magic trick, it's really important to be clear. I like to always mime what I want them to do, so they really can visualize it and get a sense of it. So I say, pick up any number of cards and set them to the side. And they do that. Look at the card you cut to. And they do that.
Okay.
Put it back on the other pile. So we've moved it from the top of this pile to the top of this pile. So put it back on that pile and complete the cut and lose your card. And when they do that, my key card ends up right beside their card. So the trick is set. You know, magicians often refer to these tricks that all the work is done at this point. The rest is presentation. So all the tricky part is over and done with. You get to relax and have fun with the performance of this next little bit. So you have to set up your premise of the trick. So what I'm going to do is go through the cards and sense when your card comes up. I'm going to try and get a sense of your card. I'm being careful not to say, I'm going to go through the cards and stop at your card. So I'm not actually going to do that. That's what they think I'm going to do, but I don't want to necessarily put that into words, because there's a magician named Jerry Andrus from the Seattle area, and he was famous for never actually telling a lie as a magician. He would always phrase things in a way that was technically accurate. And I like to do that too. So I'm not overtly lying to people. I just say I'm going to go through the cards and get a sense of when yours comes up. So I'm just dealing cards face up onto the table. And in my head, I'm thinking of my key card. I get forgetful when I'm performing. You get nervous. Your brain is the first thing to go. So whenever I'm using a key card, it becomes a mantra. I go, ace of spades, ace of spades, ace of spades, ace of spades. In my head, that's important. In my head, I'm saying that. Ace of spades.
Good reminder. Good reminder.
Yeah. So I'm just going through focusing, because it's very easy as you're looking at these cards to let these thoughts confuse you. It's a natural thing. You want to process what you're viewing. You have to block it out. You have to do a dead-eyed stare. Ace of spades, ace of spades. So you're going through looking for the ace of spades. And there's my key card. So I know that the next card is going to be the chosen card as I deal that out. But in this trick, you have to be careful not to give that away. Now, sometimes there's another version of this trick where you do the same thing, but you do it for real, where you'd go through and you deal out the cards. And let's just back up a few cards here. You deal through the cards. You say, I'm going to get a sense of your card. And okay, I got a sense of it. And then that's their card. So the sense that you got was seeing their key card, or seeing your key card. But I like to do the version that to me is a bit more fun, where I miss it entirely. So I see my key card and I keep dealing. And I deal about 4 or 5 cards, but as I'm dealing, I can make sure I still can see it in the, it's spread out. If I deal in a pile, I won't be able to find their card. So I deal in a bit of a line so that I can see where their card is. And then I slow down, I start to focus. This is the acting. I'm acting so hard right now. Thinking and focusing and, okay. Now here's the line. And you have to say this properly or else it doesn't make sense. The next card I'm going to turn over will be your card. So you're letting them assume that it's that card you're talking about, right? You want to create that assumption in their mind. A lot of magic is not me telling you a lie, it's letting you lie to yourself. I set it up for you to lie to yourself, and that's where the magic happens. So I say the next card I'm going to turn over is your card, and I got to make sure my face and my body doesn't betray this deception. So I say the next card I turn over is going to be your card, and I'm looking at that card and I'm getting ready to reach for that card. The next card I'm going to turn over is going to be your card, and at the last second I go for that one, which is right next to my key card. So I don't want to give it away. I don't want to be like, okay, the next card I'm going to turn over is going to be your card. Because that's telegraphing what you're trying to do. So the next card I'm going to turn over is going to be your card. And you turn it over. Now you have to be careful because with this trick, because it's kind of a weird ending, to be honest. You have to be careful you don't go, the next card I'm going to turn over will be your card. Because they can't actually see that. They can't see what card you turn over. So you have to make sure you do that slowly. Right? I'm going to turn over. You pause for dramatic effect and then turn it over. Okay.
I was thinking about the question that you got earlier about repeating a trick. And this might be just the two different endings that you described might be a really cool way to do that, is to do it first and just do counting, see your key card, bam, turn over the selected card, and then repeat it again.
Yeah.
You know, get a quick glimpse of the bottom card, that's your new key card, and do it again and go button and fly by the selected card. And then you've got, and then they really believe you screwed up because they've seen
Absolutely.
this before.
Yeah, that would be
They know how
perfect.
it's supposed to end. It kind of amps up the stakes a little bit.
That would be a perfect example of that 1-2 kind of punch idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, the first time you literally do stop on their card, and the second time you blow past it, but still find it. I think that would be a great combo.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's
It
that
looks
was
like
kind of
Henry has
my
a question.
Oh, I just was wondering whether it'll be more effective if you have the spectator cut more than once.
you could very well,
Like
because
3-4 times.
if you have a key card next to what would it be next to? So I've got the king next to the queen. If I cut the cards, right, it doesn't change the fact that the king is still on top of the queen, or underneath, I forget, whatever. But it doesn't change the fact that those two cards are together. No matter how much I cut, as long as I do one cut and complete it, it won't change that fact. The only thing that might happen, just by pure chance, you might cut right between those two cards, which would put one on top and one on the bottom.
Mhm.
But if you cut again, it would go back together. So yes, you can cut the cards as often as you like, as long as it's cut what they call single cuts. Because if you were to cut a card and do 3 cuts, now there's a chance that by chance you might have messed up your pair. So
Okay.
So this is Ryan. So this is after they put the deck back together with your key card on top of theirs.
yeah.
And then you tell them to cut it a couple of times. if
Yeah,
they want.
this would be right at the beginning of the trick. So when they say, you say cut the cards, look at your card, put it back, complete the cut. And Henry is suggesting perhaps you could say, and cut the cards again if you'd like. And if you want to cut them again, you can. You can keep doing this as often as they want until they're satisfied. So,
Mm.
so yes, that's possible. But to answer, also address Henry's question of, should you do that? I don't know. Because the point of this trick isn't really like, I don't know.
It might
Because
be
things like
overselling
that,
a little bit.
just kind of like, it draws out the trick and slows things down. And it's like, it's to me, it's almost more trouble than it's worth.
It'll make it appear like the cards are more mixed.
Yeah, it does. So it kind of depends on what you're going for. If you're wanting to emphasize how difficult it is to find the card, you could keep cutting. For me, that's not really what the trick is about for me. So I prefer to just, get that sense. And even if they think, oh, well, he knows it's about in the middle, but it's still difficult to be able to stop exactly on that card. So it depends on on the effect you want to accomplish, I suppose. Okay, so let's all kind of walk through this together. I'll explain the process with less of my interjections. I'll explain the process so we can all kind of go step by step through this together. So the first thing you need to do is have the cards on the table, but you need to know what the bottom card is. So the easiest way to do this is just as you set the cards down, go, okay, let's try something. And I've exposed the bottom card to myself as I go lift up the cards. So let's try this with a shuffled deck of cards. And as I do that, I'm able to spot. Now you don't want to go, okay, I'm going to do this and ready. Right. I use my peripheral vision to spot that card as I set it down. So you set cards on the deck or on the table, and you know the bottom card. You say, cut the cards anywhere you like and set them to the side. So they do that. Take a look at the card you cut to. And it goes there. And complete the cut, which of course takes your key card and sets it on top. I'm going to try and get a sense and find your card as I go through. So I'm going to deal cards face up, trying to get a sense of your card. So I'm dealing until, actually not even until I see my key card, because I don't want to stop. And so if you think about stopping on your key card, you're gonna fumble. You want to keep going right past your key card, which I'm long past it here at this point. And say, okay, the next card I turn over is going to be your card, and you go through your pile and find that card. Okay, can I get a show of hands? We were able to accomplish that process. Yeah, I see Linda giving raising the roof over there. Any questions about anything that might have gone sideways with that? Okay. Yeah, so it's a pretty straightforward process. But here's the cool thing about this. You'll actually find, as you read more magic books, you'll find this concept of a key card come up a lot. It's used in a lot of different applications. Because what it allows you to do is know what card they're thinking of. But as we've discussed already, so there's two ways to end this trick so far, but that's by no means the limit. There is virtually unlimited ways to end this trick. So let's talk about that. If you know, and again, let's go back to my obvious Ace of Spades key card just to keep track. So if you know that their card is in the deck next to your Ace of Spades, you can do the endings that we've talked about, or you can kind of make it up because you can figure out their card. If you go, okay, so you're thinking of one of these cards, right? And as you go through, you can spot your key card, and now you know what card they chose. So I'm just showing people the cards under the guise of, you know, we can see that you're thinking of one of these cards, and I know there's my key card, and so I know that that's the card they chose. And just in that casual action of, you know, you're thinking of one of these cards, right? Okay, focus on that card. I want you to picture it in your mind, and I'm getting a psychic sensation that you're thinking of a red card. Is that correct? Yeah, you're thinking of a diamond. Is that? I don't even actually remember. You're thinking of a diamond. You're thinking of the two of diamonds, and you've just performed a miracle. I don't know, you know, if you're aware of that fact. You were able to just pluck a thought out of their brain using that same technique. You could write down your prediction if you want. Okay, I'm going to read your mind. I'm going to write it down. What card were you thinking of? They say the two of diamonds. You open up your prediction, and it's the two of diamonds. So this is just a tool that we have in our kit to discover the identity of a card they chose, and from there you can make up your own ending. So I know Sarah when we were chatting earlier this week, and she was saying sometimes she likes to give out homework along these lines. So I've given you a tool, and she might quiz you on some different creative ideas.
Well, not a quiz. I mean, there's no grade. You don't get a report card at the end of the class, unless you want one, but that's okay. But I would love for somebody to volunteer to perform this for the group at the beginning of our next class. And the you can perform it using any ending you want, either any of the 3 endings that Ryan has showed us today, or you could come up with your own presentation and your own ending. So I love this is the part where we get to be creative and imaginative, and the world is your oyster. So whatever ideas you've got, try it out. That's part of the fun is figuring out your own presentation and how you want to introduce the final card. How do you want to find it? How do you want to identify it? So would anybody like to volunteer to perform this one next week? Linda. All right. Linda, I love your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And Sarah, you just made me think of another possible answer to this trick. If you know what card they chose, and you have a secret radio transmitter in your pocket, where you can key in the card that was chosen. Okay, this signal gets passed back to your friend who works at a restaurant. Okay, and there's a seafood buffet. And when you bring this person into the restaurant for the seafood buffet, the oysters are arranged in the shape of a 2 and a diamond. How about that for a card trick?
That's pretty awesome. So Linda, that's your assignment for next session. It's sure that would work too.
Yeah.
We'll see that from you next Wednesday night, Ryan.
Maybe, yeah.
Ryan?
I don't like oysters, but yeah, go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, hey Ryan. So you mean if somebody had like one of these, that would work?
Yeah. maybe that looked like a radio. The challenge is you couldn't necessarily say the name of the card without them being able to hear it, unless you were able to say, when there is okay, I've seen this happen. I've done this sort of thing myself, where you do a card trick and you would do exactly what we did with, okay, I'm going to go through and find your card, but you mess it up on purpose. You say, oh geez, I guess I didn't know your card. And then you step outside and spray painted on the brick wall across the street is you chose the 2 of diamonds. So I guess that 1, 2, like you mess up on purpose in order to have that triumph later on. So you could potentially, secretly go 2 of diamonds into your radio.
Or you could create a code that your secret partner knows.
That's right.
So that you could use secret coded language or tap in Morse code, so that they get the secret message and can arrange the oysters properly.
Like, hey, Ron, could you make a reservation at the Seafood King restaurant?
Well,
I believe I'm a diamond member.
Hey, Ryan, I'm hoping that the magician I watch tomorrow giving a lecture at 3 o'clock comes up with something like that.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. You can see, I love to get distracted, as you can notice, and go down all these little ideas. Would anyone be willing to walk through this and kind of perform it for our group here as kind of understanding we just learned this isn't a polished performance, but just to go through it as a kind of a reinforcement technique for both yourself and those watching. Anyone like to give it a try and perform for the group? I know this is a big ask. This is a little bit awkward, but we're all here to learn together. I'd
If
appreciate
you
it.
make me pick somebody, I will.
I I don't like to force people to do magic against their will so much, but apparently Sarah doesn't have those same boundaries.
Luckily, I have no such compunction.
I'd love to try.
Great, Dave, appreciate that. So yeah, if you just want to demonstrate
Dave.
whatever version of this that we've talked about.
Okay. Let's see. Hang on. I got a spotlight. Okay, Dave's spotlighted now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Introducing Dave.
Okay,
Sorry,
so I get a glance of the bottom card. And then the spectator, I ask them, pick up some cards and set them to the side. Look at the cards you cut to. Put it back and then finish the cut. And now I'm gonna deal through the cards and see if I can get a feel for what your card was. And I'm saying to myself, 4 diamonds, 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 4 diamonds. Glad we didn't mess up on the 4 of hearts. 4 diamonds, 4 diamonds, 4 diamonds. I think your card is going to be the next card.
Hmm.
Aha.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave had the exact thought that I usually have when I do this trick, is I see a card close to my key card and think, oh, I've messed it up, haven't I? I have such a hard time remembering. That's why, to me, that mantra is so important, because there's a lot of distraction that you're dealing out. You're literally, dealing distractions in front of your face. So,
Ryan, if we have 15 more seconds, I have my my unwitting, unknowing volunteer.
Oh, great!
We can get him in the camera here. Just stepped into camera.
Yeah, please.
I'd love to do it for the group.
We can witness a live show.
Yeah. So this is Noah.
Hang on. I gotta find you. Okay.
Oh, wow.
You guys have us?
Yes,
You
gotcha.
have Noah? Noah, you're on the camera. See where we are?
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
I know one.
Okay, let's see. Let me change my view. There we go. All right, Noah.
Okay.
I'm gonna put these cards down. All right, I want you to take some of the cards, as many as you want, and cut the cards. Take some off the top and make another stack right there. I'm sorry, actually, we'll use my hand, guys. I'm sorry, you can't. Noah, take as many as you want off the top. You don't have to be embarrassed. And you can take it from this table and put it on this table. No, don't do something funny. Go ahead, take quick, everyone's waiting. A bunch as you want, and put it down. Okay, right? Now, look at the card that you cut to, and don't show it to me. Pick this card up the top you cut to. You look at it, and I'm gonna turn around. You can show it to everyone on the screen. Did you show it to everyone on the screen? Right?
Okay.
Now
Thank
put it
you.
down on top of the stack, right?
Okay.
Now, I'm gonna start going through the cards, and I'm gonna think about your card. I want you to think of the card. Think of the color, think of the shape, you think about it. Okay, and I'm gonna try to read your mind. I'm going through the cards. You guys can't see my table, I'm sorry. But Noah, I'm going through the cards, and I'm gonna try to sense your card when we go through the cards here, okay? I'm thinking. Keep focusing. I feel the brain waves. Keep going. I'm looking. You see all these cards I'm putting down, Noah? You see all the, well, you can look at the card. He's thinking hard. Okay, look, Noah, the next card I'm going to turn over, right? The next card I'm going to turn over is going to be your card. Okay, are you ready? The next card I'm going to turn over is going to be your card. Are you ready? Yes. Was that your card? Oh, did I botch? I was close, but I forgot. What was the card, guys? What was it?
Jack of spades.
It was the Jack of Spades. A Jack of Clubs. All right. Well, at least I got the patter down. I did so much for the trick. I got. Yeah. I got my. Oh, yeah. I did. I memorized a 10 of clubs instead of a 10 of spades as my key card. I was close. I got
Hey,
my notes.
you've already said too much, Evan. Noah, you have to leave the room. You got it.
Right, yeah.
Thank you, Noah.
Thank you, guys.
You did
All right,
great,
bye-bye,
Noah.
Thank you guys for allowing me.
Well, thank you, Evan. That's fun. You know, I've lost touch a little bit with magic over the last 2 years because I haven't been able to perform for live audiences. And, you know, to me, it's just a bunch of nonsense technique and methods, but it only becomes magic when someone is in the room to see it. So I appreciate you bringing on an unwitting volunteer.
So Ryan, question.
Yeah.
Would it be better for you to have a particular key card that you always put at the bottom of the thing? So for example, 7 of spades, just have 7 of spades. Every time you take it out of the deck, that make sure you have it at the bottom.
Yes.
So it's not an unknown card. Would that help?
That absolutely, that would help. If you have your your go-to
Right.
card like
Right.
that, because what you could do is, before a tricking, so say, oh, hey, got a deck of cards that's been all shuffled, and you can find your 7 of spades and
Right.
just cut it to the bottom and you're set to
Yeah.
go. So yeah, if you have trouble remembering, and again, it's very easy to do once the nerves kick in of live performances. No matter, I've been doing this 20 years and my brain just falls out of my head. So yes, having your predetermined key card would be a great option.
Yeah, because as I say to my wife every now and then, I don't remember what I had for breakfast. So,
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
better for me to have one key card.
Absolutely. It's I think it's smart if you do that, not to make it the ace of spades or something
Right.
obvious, make it something obscure, but
Yeah.
that you can remember. The trade-off to that, and there's always, magic is always about compromises, about whenever you get something, you have to give away something else. So if you get the advantage of a consistent key card, you lose the advantage of being able to say, here, shuffle these cards before you start.
Right.
Which is another nice, because you can have someone shuffle the cards and put them on the table and spot whatever key card they ended up with. So that's what you trade off. So, but if that's the difference between you being able to pull off the trick, then it's not important.
But would it also be better to kind of shuffle in front of them while talking, saying that I'm going to hand you the deck, and you can cut it to any way you want. So they look at you shuffling without knowing that you've kept the bottom card the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask.
Yeah, certainly. And I don't necessarily want to get into that too much, just because of the scope of our meeting here today. I know we're doing more card technique later, but there are some ways, even in the Mark Wilson book, I don't have the page number, of how to shuffle a deck of cards and say, if that's my ace of diamonds, how to shuffle a deck of cards.
Yeah.
And keep that ace of diamonds on the bottom.
Yeah.
I won't get into the details, but just very quickly, if you shuffle deck cards and keep your fingers kind of stuck to that ace of diamonds, that ace of diamonds is going to stay as the rest of the cards come out. So I'm shuffling on top, but that ace of diamonds will stay. So yeah, you could say, get your key card in place and say, okay, we're going to try this. I'll shuffle up the cards and you cut them. And that seems pretty fair.
Right. Thank you.
So there's all sorts of options. When you're doing a magic trick, there's 1,000 ways to do it, and 1,000 different variations. Yeah, sometimes you'll meet magicians who insist there's only one way, but you have to learn to ignore those people because everyone has their own personal approach to how to do a trick, and it's about finding what works for you. So if you struggle with remembering a key card, then the method that works for you is to use the same key card. So, okay. Let's carry on. Let's do another trick. As I said, I'm happy to take one trick and talk about it for 3 hours if you let me. So I gotta push myself to
Oh no, much more to accomplish today.
There's more to do. Yeah, we don't want to walk away with only one trick. Although, as we've said, this one trick is actually 1,000 tricks. Okay, let's
do another one anyway.
Let's do another one. Okay, deck of cards. I guess, do I need my table for this? I guess I do. So, deck of cards, and I would extend. This is not a trick that requires a table, except that there's no one else here to hold the cards. So this will be the other person's hands, essentially. I would extend the deck to you and ask you to cut off or pick up about half the deck, because we're both going to have a deck of cards do this trick. I'm going to teach you how to be a magician here today. So that's your trainer deck, and all you do is follow along. First thing every magician needs to learn is how to have someone pick a card. So I will spread the cards out and have you pick out any card you like, and they do. And we'll say they pick that one. And that will be your card. Focus. Okay?
Got it.
That will be your card. Now, it's very easy to find your card right now. There it is. So part 2 of a card trick is putting it back in the deck, and I would again have that person slide it back in the deck wherever they like. So your card has been chosen and lost in the pack. Now you do the same to me. So I would ask them to spread out their cards, and I pick a card, and I look at it, and I remember it, and I put it back in. So we've both done exactly the same thing. Okay? Now, I've picked a card and you've picked a card. And so we're going to take our cards or our decks and combine them and cut. And we're ready to do a trick. Are you ready to do a trick? I hope you've been, following along so far. My card that I picked was the 4 of clubs. What card did you pick?
The 7 of hearts.
Yeah, no, it's hard to remember cards when we're doing like 50 billion card tricks.
I just forgot that you were actually looking for an answer.
So I picked the 4 of clubs, you picked the 7 of hearts. If I snap my fingers, I can find your card. And you try it. Perfect. Hopefully, we've both been able to find cards. And if we look at the deck, every card is going that way except for, whoops, oh, I messed this up. Reverse.
It happens to everyone, folks. We all do it.
That makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, I'm here to help, Okay, I'll go through that again in fast forward. So
can I pick the 7 of hearts again? Because it's going to be hard to remember another card.
We'll see. It'll be a random chance here.
All right.
So you take half the deck. That'll be your deck. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. You can go through and pick out any card, and I don't know if that's gonna be the 7 of hearts. No. The King of Hearts.
I got it.
Let's just say it out loud so we remember.
It's the King of Hearts.
is your card. Okay.
Thank you.
So you take the King of Hearts and you lose it back into the deck, like so. Now, you would do the same thing for me. So you would spread out the cards, and I would pick out any card I like. Okay, and I put it back anywhere I like, and that's it. So we've both picked out a card, and we've both lost it back in the deck. We're going to combine our decks together. Cut. I snap my fingers. You snap your fingers, and we can find each other's cards. I chose the 10 of clubs. What did you choose?
The King of Hearts.
King of Hearts.
The King of Hearts. Hopefully this is going to work. If we look through the deck. Aha, there's one card reversed and a second card magically reversed in the deck. No other cards are backwards.
Ooh.
2 cards. I chose the 10 of clubs and you chose the King of Hearts. Aha. Okay, I did it. So that trick is called the double turnover. I think I know why. On page 36. 36. Now, in order to teach that trick, I'm actually going to flip back to page 31 and do the automatic card discovery, which should also be called the single turnover because it's the same trick, but only one card. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about how it gets doubled. So this is the automatic card discovery from page 31, where you would go through and they would pick out a card. Maybe it'll be the 7 of diamonds. No. So our card today at the moment is the 8 of spades. Okay. And they would take that card and put it back into the deck. Like so. And all I need to do is snap my fingers, and somewhere in here, table gets in the way. Somewhere in here is one card that has flipped itself upside down, and it is the 8 of spades. Okay, so that is what they call the automatic card discovery, which is making their chosen card turn face up in the deck. The fundamental secret to this fact is this. If you have a card and you know what? Let me get rid of this table. I can show this trick a lot easier down here.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm getting technological. So the fundamental secret is this. If they take a card and slip it back into the deck, they're losing it in the deck. And they are. That's exactly what happens. Okay. However, if they take a card and slip it back in the deck this way, they think they're losing the card, but this is what they're doing. They are putting their one card upside down. So it looks the same because of this card that's been reversed. And so when they put that card in, they assume naturally that the rest of the deck is in that same condition. But the magic lies in the difference between their assumption and reality. That's how we get the advantage. The assumption is that they're putting their card back into the deck. The reality is they've in fact reversed their card into the deck. So that's the fundamental concept of that whole trick. So then the challenge as the magician is, how do we get into that situation, into that position, in order for that to occur? Two things we need to do. One, we need to reverse the bottom card of the deck. And two, we need to flip over the entire pack. Those are the two secret moves we need to do. In the Mark Wilson book, it talks about what is probably the easiest way to do this, which is, he talks about taking the deck, putting it behind your back, and doing your secret moves. I'm not a fan of that. I think anytime you take a deck of cards and put it behind your back while performing a magic trick, you've really seriously diminished the magic impact of that trick. Because that once that deck is consciously out of sight, anything could happen. So all bets are off at that point. So I'm going to deviate a bit from the book here and talk about some ways to accomplish those two actions in a secret way that's not so obviously secret. So the first thing you need to do is reverse that bottom card. So Mark Wilson talks about doing that behind the back while you're performing the trick. But the easiest way to do that is to have that done before the trick even starts. If you start the trick with that bottom card secretly reversed, and you hold the deck in your hand, now also in the book they talk about the dealer's grip of a deck. So in that, my thumb is on this side, I have one finger at the top, and the rest of the fingers down the side. And the reason dealers and magicians hold a deck of cards like that is because it's really very much in control. There's no cards that can go astray. Because if you were to hold this deck more loosely, what might happen is the bottom card is exposed. So we use a dealer's grip in order to maintain control, which means that bottom card can be secretly reversed for quite a while, because you're in complete control of that. So you can come out and say, hey, let's do a card trick. You can spread, and you're still holding that bottom portion in dealer's grip. So you can spread cards with your thumb, just keep pushing off cards. And until you get right down to the very bottom, that bottom card is still going to be hidden. If you get too close, it might start to spread. But as long as you never get past the bottom quarter of the deck, it's going to remain hidden in your hand there. See, so step one is accomplished. Just have that card reversed from before you even begin the trick. Trade-off. You need to be careful about, exposing that bottom card. So you would hold in your hand, keeping the bottom downwards so that no one can see. Now, that said, even if you start the trick, you can't exactly walk in from the other room with the deck like this and ready to perform a trick. You do need to reverse that card at some point, perhaps while other people are in the room. But here's the greatest tool of a magician, is that no one knows what you're going to do. And most of the time, they're not even watching. So in order to secretly reverse a card, you don't need any fancy, magical technique to do that. You can just take a card and reverse it. And, that's what I did earlier. I have the advantage of being in this little box, which means I can very naturally take the deck and just say, hey, how about that? And I'm able to do it off screen, right? As I drop my hands. But this box exists even outside of Zoom, because this is the box where people are paying attention. But if you can drop your hands out of the attention box and accomplish that same move. So if I stand up for a second, good thing I'm wearing pants. So I can say, hey, let me show you a trick. And unfortunately, my face is a big part of this. Not just this face, any face. Hey, I'd like to show you a trick. In fact, we're both going to perform a trick together. Is that okay with you? And as I ask that question, that's a natural point to drop my hands and just quickly flip that over. Another thing I've done in the past is actually use, if I start with the deck face up, use my side or my leg to flip over the card. I can push off one card and flip it against my body, and I'm in that position. But anyway, I'm getting off track. There's a million ways to do this. Most of the time, and this is, I think, a big part of progressing as a magician, is you get more comfortable lying to people. When you're starting in magic, you're very nervous about lying to people, and you want to lie as little as possible and be sneaky about it. But as you progress as a magician, you get more and more bold, and because you've gotten away with so much up to that point, you're more comfortable pushing it further. So doing a move, what some people might think out in the open, is not comfortable. But as you work it and try it out, you'll become more comfortable with it. So when you first start, you might need to, duck your hands under the table casually. Just, as you're talking, say, you drop your hands all the time. It's a natural thing for most people to do. And in that moment, when you drop your hands, you can secretly flip over the card.
Ryan,
Worst case scenario, yeah.
Question.
Yeah.
Why couldn't you just take the cards out of a box with the bottom one already flipped over?
Absolutely.
And as you're feeding it down, no one would see it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, that's just a question.
No, that's my tendency to think about it is how I can set up a trick on the fly. That's just my personal taste, because I want to be able to be flexible in what I'm doing. Another option you just made me think of with a card box. If you take a deck of cards out, it's very common to not get all the cards on the first try, and you can kind of use that to your advantage. So if you take a box out, you can hold back one card and you go, oh, hang on, sorry, I missed them. And just in that action, you've literally done it right in front of them.
Right.
But it's the sort of thing people aren't paying attention yet because they don't even know what to pay attention to. And so you can get away with a lot. So I encourage you to play with what you can get away with.
And the more casual you are about what you are doing, the less people will care. If you behave like it's important, people will pay attention to it. If you behave like the important stuff is not happening yet, nobody's paying attention to what you're doing. And if you really want cover, you really ask somebody else to do something, ask somebody else a question. Because everybody will turn to look at them and nobody's paying attention to you because you're not doing anything important right now.
Yeah, I mean, the word in magic is misdirection. You may have heard that word. Nowadays, since Tommy Wonder, we often refer to it as the direction of attention. Misdirection is look away. Direction of attention is, hey, look at that. And that's far more powerful. So if you want someone to look away, you give them something else to look at. And that's why asking a question, hey, would you like to try a would you like to perform a magic trick? Everyone's going to go, oh, would he? And they're not paying attention to you. So yeah, great point, Sarah. Just give them something to look at.
Yeah, I mean, ask them if they, do you have a pen? Somebody find a pen.
And they're all looking.
You could bring out an elephant. You could,
That's right. So I guess my point is, a lot of the books and things will talk about flipping over the bottom card. There's a number of tricks that rely on this idea. There's a lot of books that talk about secret techniques to flip over the bottom card. I think my point is that you don't actually need a technique to do it. It just occurs. And you don't pay attention to it. That's my point. So you don't need to go behind your back to do it. You can literally just drop your hands out of the focus area and flip over the cards.
I mean, that being said, you probably want to spend some time practicing doing that so that it becomes comfortable and casual and something that doesn't require thought.
Actually, I can give you one. I guess it's a technique. It's not a secret move because nothing's hidden, but it's a technique to do this really quickly. And this, you would start with the deck face up proper, and it just looks like you're gonna shuffle the cards. But in that action, you've turned over one card. So what's happening here? The deck is face up, and it's almost the same as that technique that I wasn't going to talk about that I talked about earlier. Your fingers can stick to that bottom card. So the deck is on those fingers and it kind of sticks. When you go to shuffle the cards, you just keep that card stuck to your fingers. The deck flips over and shuffles on top, and that bottom card doesn't get flipped. So that's a pretty straightforward, quick way to be able to do that. Bottom card just stays. And even doing that on camera, it's actually hard to see.
That's very hard to see, yeah.
In that instance,
yeah.
So maybe that is a secret move. I never thought of it that way.
I would classify that as a move. It's not a big move, but it's a move.
Okay, all right. Well, then I've broken the rules of this class.
You have broken the rules of the class. Your punishment will come in the accounting later.
Again, I have wandered so far off course. Let's get back to.
Okay. Shall we have somebody walk through the trick?
Well, I haven't even taught it yet.
Well, sorry. Okay, you and I both need to focus.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, teaching the trick.
Okay. So we have accomplished one of our two parts, which is flipping over the bottom card. The other thing, this is going to be a much shorter lesson. The other part is that you need to be able to flip over the entire deck. So it goes from what I would call real state to simulated state, where it's actually face up. and you need to be able to switch from real state to simulated state. And the way to do that is exactly the same as everything I just talked about. So the action that needs to occur is this, and you can do that behind your back. You can do that under the table. You can do that while asking a question. You can do that in all the same ways. One, again, almost a move idea would be this. If you have a deck of cards on your hand and you make a pretty natural gesture, right? That's often things as you express something, you go, well, what do you think about that? And I've gone from my extended fingers, curling my hand up to flip over the deck. So I'm going to try a trick where you actually get to do the trick along with me. Does that sound good? So, okay. So those are the two techniques involved in this trick. Now we can talk about the trick itself. So starting on the automatic card discovery, which is just the single thing, we would have our card reversed on the bottom. I'll do it my sneaky way.
Oh God, it's been so long ago. I forgot we're doing the double.
Yeah, that's right. There's a whole second phase to this.
Whole other thing. All right, focusing, go.
But this goes back to that rule of practice, right?
Yes.
You practice the techniques, and once you have those techniques down, we can learn two tricks like that. So, okay. So I've secretly reversed my card. I go through and I have them pick out any one card. I'll swap back here so I have them pick out any card, and I can keep spreading so far that I don't reveal that bottom card. So they pick out any card, and I go, and this would be my moment where I flip the deck. So, okay, so take a look at your card. Okay, you got it? And put it back in the deck. So right now, the appearance is they lost the deck. The reality is they've put it face down in a face up deck, except for that card, but we're just going to ignore that. All we're going to do is take this whole deck and set it down. Oh, wait, no, we can't do that. How do we do this? Oh, we need to secretly flip it again. That's right. So the same thing, you can ask a question. If you need to set it down like that, you can't do it openly because it's back and back. But if you go, okay, so you remember your card, right? And just by doing that gesture to go on top of that, it covers it up. So we've secretly flipped the deck back to reality, and we're able to go through the cards and find one card reversed, and that's their chosen card. Now, the truth is there's still one more card reversed at the bottom, but that's just going to stay there hidden. We're just going to pretend that doesn't exist. That's the simple way to do it. So that's the single way. The double way is basically that same trick, just with a bit more distraction and noise around it. So let's walk through the process of the double turnover. And there. So it starts the same way. We would secretly reverse a card. And I'm going to teach you how to do a magic trick. You take half the cards. The first part of any magic trick is having a card chosen. So I ask them to pick a card. As they're picking that card, I need to flip to my simulated appearance so that they are doing the trick. What this double turnover trick does, instead of having to hide this card at the end, we actually turn that to our advantage. Because this secretly reversed card is actually the card that I choose. That's my finger quotes. So I need to know the identity of my secret turnover card. So that's the 2 of clubs. So they put their card back in. They have me pick a card. I take out a card and I look at it. But when I look at it, I'm actually going to think 2 of clubs. That's not that card. I ignore this card entirely, but I think 2 of clubs. And I put it back. So nobody but me sees my card. Where are we at over here? This is where I messed up the very first time I performed it, because I took this pile and put it on top of this pile, which you can see is not going to work. I forgot that second flip before I do that. So now when I combine these 2 piles, what we've got, this pile doesn't, honestly, this pile doesn't matter at all. Nothing happens in this pile. It's all in this pile where we have their card, and the very bottom we have my card, apparently. So when I combine these 2, I either put my pile on top or their pile on top and then cut it. It centers those 2 reversed cards. So I know I understand this is getting a little bit confusing here. But you can see how it's just that single trick wrapped up in a fancier package. So I'm going to walk through this whole thing again and hopefully be more clear this time.
Are we all doing this one together, or you're gonna?
Yeah, I'll walk through the in a way that we can all do it together.
Okay.
So we have a deck with no preparation to it at all. The first thing we need to do is secretly flip over the bottom card in the multitude of ways we've talked about. You would ask them to pick off about half the cards and hold on to them. I have to use the table, but this would all be done in their hands. They would hold on to the cards. I'm going to show you what you're going to do. You would spread the cards and have them pick one. As they're picking it, you would secretly reverse your pile. They would look at it and slip it back into the deck. So that in itself is the version 1 of the trick. You need to secretly reverse your pile again after that action. The second phase is all fake. You have them spread open the cards. You take out a card, you pretend to look at it, you ignore it entirely, and put it back in. Finally, you having flipped this over so it's the proper way, you would combine the 2 piles together. I give them a cut just to make sure the reverse cards are in the center. And then I can snap my fingers and reveal the fact that our 2 cards are reversed in the deck. This one does involve a bit of that elusive memory work again, because you need to remember the card that you reversed in order to name it at the end. If you forget, it's not the end of the world, because you just say it's whatever card shows up reversed. But it's better if you can name your card before you show it. So when you do that,
When do you spot your bottom reversed card?
well, at the very beginning, as you reverse it.
As you reverse it.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, there's times when you can peek and to remind yourself, you know, as they're picking out a card. Let me switch back to what would be your performing view of the cards. If you have your reverse card and you go through and have someone pick out a card, in that moment, you can go, just peek to yourself, right? If you just spread and go, you know, you've got the cards turned in towards yourself, you can just take one more peek if you'd like. Or if you realize you forgot to peek earlier, you can go, oh, and okay. So there's that opportunity. Flip the cards, they put it in, flip back, and you have the same opportunity again to take a quick peek if you need to. Okay. I understand that there's a lot of moving parts to this trick. Should I go over it one more time, or would somebody like to give it a try?
Well, did everybody,
I-
I didn't have my gallery view up. Did everybody do it with Ryan this last time? Okay.
Mm,
And did anybody have any questions about that?
I wound up with I never turned over my bottom flip over again. So I've had 3 turned over cards when I was looking through, and I was like, oh, geez, I should have changed that back. Or
Okay.
Oh, like from an earlier run through, you had an extra card. Yeah.
Okay. So who would like to volunteer to just kind of walk through it for us?
Wait, can you repeat when you put the piles back together, the pile that you gave them, is that supposed to go on top or the bottom?
So let's see, same thing as Owen, I've got extra cards reversed here. Okay, so you've got half the deck out, and what you end up with is a situation where their card is reversed in the middle and your card is reversed on the very bottom before they're combined. So this is the situation. Ideally, you want those cards to be near the middle just for an aesthetic, a sense of it. So 2 options are, you could take your pile and put it on top of theirs, which would, whoops, I got extra cards everywhere. If you do that, it would be, near the center, but to the top side of it, which is fine. I mean, they're supposed to be put in randomly anyway. What I prefer to do, just to get them kind of even more aesthetically centered, again, same situation. So theirs is in the middle, mine's in the bottom. If I take theirs and put it on top, and then I cut off about 1/4 of the deck and put it on the bottom. So another way to do that, and accomplish the same thing. So same situation, their card's in the middle, mine's on the bottom. I could also say to them, okay, cut your cards anywhere you like and put mine in the middle. Same thing. But so
In other words, it seems like it really doesn't matter if it goes on top or bottom.
it really doesn't matter.
And
Yeah.
you can actually even cut it afterwards.
You can, yeah. At this point, there's 2 cards reversed in the deck, so not much can go wrong, except maybe prematurely showing one of those cards. But you could, in theory, take this deck of cards and shuffle it. It's the trick is done. Nothing's changing. Nothing's going to happen. You can shuffle it. You can cut it. Well, I cut to the card. So there you go. There's no reason to do any of that, but nothing can go wrong at this point. I shouldn't say that. Lots could go wrong.
Why do you have to tempt the fates like that, Ryan?
Yeah, I will never say that. What could go wrong? I've proven a lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
So
But,
let's see. Any volunteers? Shall I volunteer somebody? Sudhir, how about you give it a shot?
Sure. Okay.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to spotlight you.
All right. So which way? Okay. So I'm going to do the double turnover trick.
Okay.
So we're going to split the decks of cards. So here's the deck that you're going to have. And now you're going to tell me where to stop. So I'm going to turn the camera down a little bit.
Ah,
Sure,
thank you.
thank you.
All right. So Ryan, tell me where to stop and pick the card.
Okay, there.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to show you the card to the camera. All right.
Got it.
okay.
All right. And I'm going to insert it back in the deck. Now, I'm going to pick a card from your deck and I put it back in the deck, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to try and combine these 2 decks, right? I'm going to cut the deck maybe somewhere down here, and we'll see if we can magically find the 2 cards, right? And so I'm going to spread the deck out, and see, what was your card, Brian?
7 of clubs.
7 of clubs. I didn't call out mine. Mine was 7 of spades. So here they are, only 2 cards that are
Perfect.
reversing the deck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And as I said, I'm going to keep my key card as 7 of spades always. So that's the one I'm going to reverse at the bottom. So I don't have to think twice.
So by coincidence, you ended up with the 7 of clubs and the 7 of spades.
Yes.
One important rule for magicians is take credit for everything. So any coincidence like that, you go, and naturally, my card was the perfect match to yours. Because our brains are synchronized in that way. So
Absolutely. Any opportunity.
yeah. But Sudhir, his turnovers of the deck were extremely natural. I thought that was very well done. I think the first time he used the camera almost to have his deck cards, put the card, okay, look at that card. Well, look, you can't see a darn thing that I'm doing back here. So that's very smart time to do it, right? All the attention is here. You can do anything you want back here. And then the second turnover, you had the cards on the table, picked them up, and he picked them up and brought them to his chest, which is a very natural way to do it. But it was while he was picking up the other with the other hand.
Yeah.
So if you just did this hand and picked it up, we might have noticed. But because he was reaching at the same time for the more forward object, our eyes are drawn to the more forward object, and he was able to do this very well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Yeah.
Brian, does the trick lose anything if, I was just trying to think through this visually, if you ended up, I can't see myself, but if you ended up showing all this and you had those 2 cards flipped over, and then you spent another minute and pulled out that upside down card and showed it to be their card, visually, this is more impactful to me than this, where they see right away, oh yeah, that's my card flipped over. But do you lose anything if you then take the whole deck and flip it all over and show them all face up, except 2 cards are face down? What do you know? It's your card and my card. Does that, then are people starting to think, well, wait a minute, they're face up, face down. Did he just flip the deck? I don't know. But I always think visually, this kind of appearance where, look, there's one card that's not the same direction as the others. Now take a second and pull it out and it's your card, right? To me, that just seems more impactful. Maybe it's just because I'm nursing it for an extra 5 seconds of, did he get it right, or did this idiot make another mistake again and that's the wrong card, right?
No, that's a great question to ask. And everyone can have their own answer. There is no one answer. I think of this as the unfolding of the magic trick, of the ending. And like Evan, I like it when I can take a trick and unfold it one fold at a time and almost slowly roll out the ending. So just to illustrate the difference here, when we finish the trick, it's going to be cards face down. And so option A is to snap your fingers, spread the cards, and there's 2 that are face up. So the upside of that is that there's no further actions. Like it's you've taken their cards, you've put them there, you do nothing else but snap your fingers and spread the cards, and it's done. So there's a certain cleanliness that's a plus. And some people might say that that's more of a surprise kind of thing. Like it's they're just all of a sudden staring you in the face. So those are the plus sides to that. If, however, plan B, if you take that deck and turn it face up before you spread it out, which I think is what, I've still got extra cards. They keep popping up. This is what Evan was suggesting that he prefers. So you get to spread the cards. And this is what I think of as unfolding. You can talk about how, look, every single card in the deck is face up. except for 2. So that's kind of the first fact that I want everyone to be clear on. Every single card in the deck is face up, except for 2. I take the 2 cards out, so now we're focused on those. And I go, I chose the Queen of Clubs, and you chose the 8 of Spades. And that's how I like to unfold it. So it's actually a three-part, right? Every card is face up except for 2. I chose this and you chose that, rather than saying, and those are ours.
Okay.
Because when I like to unfold it, I think about, how can I get everyone watching it together? And so if you unveil 2 cards at the same time, you're splitting the focus, because they have to go, oh yeah, I guess those are both it. But if you have everyone together, I chose the Queen of Clubs and you chose the 8 of Spades. The whole audience is focused on one thing, and then the whole audience gets to go, oh wow. And if you can get everyone together at the end of a trick, your reactions are going to be stronger. If everyone is delivered the package at the exact same moment, they're all going to react at the same time. So yeah, that's a really important consideration to think about, but there is no right answer.
Ideally, Ryan, at what point do you inform the audience of what card you selected?
I do it after the snap, because it's like, that is I'm not telling them anything they need to know until the moment they need to know it, I guess, is my thinking on it. So I say my storyline, my script is, I'm going to teach you how to be a magician. Take half the cards. I'm going to get you to pick a card and put it back. I'm going to pick a card and I'm going to put it back. And we'll put our cards together. And here's where we do the magic. I'm going to snap my fingers. Now it's your turn. You snap your fingers, and they don't know what, they have no idea why they're snapping. But I say, my card was the 4 of Clubs. What was your card? The 7 of Diamonds. Well, look, there's 2 cards face down. I chose the 4 of Clubs, and you chose the 7 of Diamonds. And so it maintains that alternating pattern throughout the story, which I like that, to maintain that rhythm. So I do a thing, you do a thing. I say a thing, you say a thing. I snap, you snap.
Okay, thank you so much. I know that we have one more trick on today's list, and 15 minutes left.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all. Because as I said, I go deep into the theory of things, but everything we've talked about.
You and I are both gonna have to be more disciplined.
Everything we've talked about is just going to come up time and time again throughout this entire series.
Oh yes.
So this next trick, I can explain what happens, and all the whys are basically the same. Okay. This is hang on, before I start, I should shuffle the cards so you know that nothing strange is going on. Right? There's no way I could manipulate a deck of cards once it's been shuffled. Okay, so I've got a deck of cards that's been shuffled. It could very well be shuffled by you, and I've got this paper. And I see Kenneth is first up on my screen. So Kenneth, you will be the mind that I'm going to read here today. I have a shuffled deck of cards. I'm going to put cards one at a time onto this paper. And when you get the sense that that's the card you want, I need you to yell out stop. I'm going to go slow enough so that the Zoom lag isn't a factor. Okay.
Hmm.
Stop.
Whoop, oh, hang on. Whoop, sorry. The Zoom lag was a factor. Okay, was that the card you wanted?
Yes.
Okay, so you didn't want that one.
Did not want the
You
king.
didn't
No.
want, in fact, there's all these cards. You can see it's a shuffle deck of cards. You didn't want any of these ones that we passed by. You wanted this exact card. Okay. Now I made my prediction. Okay, check this out. I predict you will stop on the 3 of clubs.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. So that's a real straightforward trick. We should be able to explain this in 8 minutes, dare I say.
Special deck.
So this requires a piece of paper, and for practice here, you can use any scrap of paper you have nearby. If you don't have that, anything that's kind of flat and rectangular will make do. Grab a book, grab anything. You just need something flat and rectangular. You know, it can even be kind of rounded. It'll still work. Something flat is really the more important. So we're going to imagine that you have a piece of paper that's the same as mine. So I've decorated this little mystery on the front. I predict on the back, and it unfolds to be my prediction. You're welcome to make one up exactly like that. In the book, this talks about this being a giant card, giant playing card, but I would assume most people don't have a giant deck of cards sitting around the house. So piece of paper works just fine. Whatever your prediction card is, it's actually not in the deck at all. You didn't even have a chance to pick that card. It's going to be set aside with my prediction. The rest of the deck doesn't matter what order it's in or how often they shuffle it. It makes no difference at all. Everyone's got a rectangular something or other. That's the envelopes. That's perfect. Pieces of paper, a book, a notepad. All right, this is all going to work just fine. The important thing is you can take your card that is your prediction and hold it behind that piece with your fingertips, and your thumb is on top. That's what you need to be able to do. If you want to get ready or set this before, what it talks about in the book is taking that and setting it on a table on the edge, so that the card and the thing are both hanging off the edge by about that much, which means you can just pick that up and have that card in place. I accidentally set it too far in, so I had to fumble just a bit to get it earlier. But if you set that on the edge, you can pick them both up. Of course, be careful as you do that not to pick it up too far.
And show them.
And show. That's what magicians call watch your angles. You got to think about where their eyeballs are and draw a little dotted line to the fact that I know I can point this right at your eyeballs, but not a little bit more. Right? You got to think about that. Where are the eyeballs? And if there's multiple eyeballs around the room, you know, if you think about all the adults, but there's a 5-year-old kid watching, well, they'd be able to see right up underneath. So in that case, you can hold it out, hold it down, hold it somewhere that nobody can see that card underneath. All right, for explanation, I'm going to move to fancy cam. I've got my prediction behind. One at a time, I'm going to thumb cards off onto my platform. Give people a second to, if they want that card, and if they don't, it just slides off. There's nothing sneaky about this. I just want to practice, even though there's no move, I want to practice to be able to do that smoothly. And if you're in person, you can go a little bit faster because there's no delay. point is, it's an extremely free choice. It doesn't matter what card they pick. So let's say they said stop there. You go, okay, you're sure. Double check, make sure they want that card. They're confident about that. There's no second guessing in this trip. You're sure you want that one? Okay, look, you could have picked any of those ones. You could have picked any of these ones, but you picked this one. Look, I made my prediction. It says, I predict the 3 of clubs. So what just happened there? Because the 3 of clubs wasn't in play. It was hidden underneath my my packet. This is the card that you actually stopped on. So how did it get switched out? This is basically just a switch. So it goes from there. As I'm talking, I put my thumb on it, which is a natural thing to do to make sure it doesn't slide away. I'm flipping these cards face up. That's important. That makes a landing pad for my lies. It's a nest of lies right there is what that is.
Landing pad for lies.
Because here's what's going to happen in slow motion. I reach over as if, you know, in magic, it's often important to practice the real thing before you practice the fake thing. So what I'm actually going to be doing is picking up my prediction to flip it over and show it. That's the real action that I'm trying to simulate, is that. The fake action with my hidden card underneath looks almost the same, but you can see as I do it slowly, you can see that I'm taking the random card with it, revealing the not random card as I turn it over.
Okay.
See, this is the disappointment sound where it's like, oh, that's it.
Wow.
So what I'm aiming to do is have this card in the same position as it looks like on the top. So that's why I put my thumb on it, because when I take that away, my thumb's going to be there. My fingers underneath are just pressing up so it slides. So this is one of those things you have to practice until you can do this smoothly, because you can't. This moment is so important. You can't be clumsy at this moment. Okay, so that's the technique. So I'm grabbing both the card and the paper, flipping it over, and that falls into view.
Now, I just want to interject for a moment, because all of you are going to, over the next couple of weeks, you're going to practice this. And now, having seen this and having seen the switch, I predict that in the next couple of weeks, each and every one of you will have a crisis of confidence about this particular trick. And you will say to yourself, it is going to be so obvious. They're going to see that it's a second card. And I just want you to remember for a moment, 30 seconds ago, when it was amazing. Okay, right. This works. There is something about your vision or psychology that makes it work. Your brain retains the position of that card. It is very deceptive. So don't let the fact that you now know how it works deceive you into thinking that it's not deceptive.
And that is exactly why magicians try and learn harder and harder tricks, is because they think if a trick is harder, it's better. But that's not at all the case. That's what I said at the very beginning. I've come back around to understanding the importance of simple tricks. So yeah, Sarah is right on. Don't let the simplicity of this fool you.
So Ryan, now that you've taught us, can you do it at speed once so that we see what it looks like?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So let me just, there's one more thing I wanted to explain about it. So you do that switch, and making sure this looks the same is important, because if you do this, there's a bit of a discrepancy there. You see how this card is now going that way instead of going this way. It's honestly, like, most people wouldn't notice, but it's a detail worth paying attention to. It's to make sure it's the same orientation. So the final thing, and the reason why I made my nest of lies, is because I've taken this card and flipped it face up. And look, I can just drop it off underneath and it just blends right into the mess. So I now have no card hidden under there because it just gets dropped in the pile. I can reveal my prediction and reveal the card they chose.
What is the name of this trick?
This is the sympathetic cards on page 135.
Okay.
Okay, and since we are down to 2 minutes, may I need a volunteer for both the double turnover that we just did and the sympathetic cards for next session. If you don't volunteer, someone will be voluntold.
I'll do it.
There's John. Which one? Since you volunteered, Julie, you're next. John, since you volunteered first, you get to pick. Which one would you like to perform?
Let me do the double turnover. I've been trying to do it and it's not coming out right. So
Okay.
it gives me a couple of weeks to either do it right or come up with some funny quip.
Okay. And so, Julie, that leaves you with, hang on, what's the name of it again?
Sympathetic card.
The sympathetic card?
Okay.
Sympathetic card.
That's the one I kind of wanted anyways.
Good magician's answer.
It was meant to be that way.
Okay.
I did a mind force. That's how it worked.
There you go. I love it. Fantastic. Okay, so thank you so much. Ryan, yes, Henry.
Oh, yes, I have a question of Ryan. When you first did the sympathetic card, you during the selection process, when your spectator told you to stop, you offered him the next card, or you offer him the next cards, and you had mentioned that you could take the King of Diamonds, I believe. If he had said yes, I want the King of Diamonds, that would ruin your prediction.
Yes, I misspoke a little bit. I meant to say, instead of you could have the King of Diamonds, you could have chosen. You could have, but you didn't. I misspoke, and I noticed that in the moment, but
okay, okay.
Yeah, because you couldn't say, do you want the two of spades?
Yeah,
You're right.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions before we wrap up?
And I'll just say, I know I go into a lot of detail here in as I speak. I'm happy to hang out for a little bit extra. If anyone has questions, don't feel like that you've lost your chance. I'll hang out for a little bit.
Okay, so thank you so much, Ryan. I appreciate that. Let's see, Karen, yes?
Why is sympathetic card called sympathetic card?
I wondered the same thing. Because
like
at some point you run out of names for stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of tricks in magic which are called sympathetic, which means that over here has the same result as what you do over here. It's like, that's the concept of a sympathetic trick. If you shuffle cards over here and they end up magically shuffled over here, would be a sympathetic trick. I don't know why this is called sympathetic card.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to follow that.
It doesn't.
Okay, before we do more questions, and thank you so much for hanging out, Ryan. We will do some more questions, just in case anybody is in a rush to go, since it is our appointed hour. I want to thank you all so much for coming. I am excited that we're all on this journey together. We meet again 2 weeks from today for another session on cards. 3 of us have our assignments, and we look forward to seeing your performances. The people who performed today, who walked through the tricks, that will be, unless you email me and tell me you want different, I will clip those out of the video that I put online, because I want to respect that you took a risk today and tried something before the group, and that's not for public, that's just for us. And And if you have any questions or anything, feel free to email me. You all know how to email me. And I will look forward to communicating with you more and to seeing you again in 2 weeks. Anybody have any questions? Yes, Sudhir?
So yeah, you can keep my portion. That way I'll be able to see what I look like.
Okay.
I mean, otherwise I'm not going to learn, because
Okay.
if I did something
I
wrong in
respect that.
that.
And this is,
Yeah.
I mean, look, I say that this is just for us. I do not, I may share this with some of the future professors just so that they can see what we're doing. But I am not sharing this with the SAM at large. And I would ask you to keep it to yourselves as well, that this is a pilot project and not something that we're trying to promote. The stuff that's online, putting the class online is really to help you. So I will now turn it back over to more questions for Ryan as soon as we give Ryan a big round of applause. Thank you so much, Ryan. This is fantastic. I'm sure that they learned a lot. I know
Sarah,
I
thank
learned a
you
lot.
to you. Thank you, Sarah.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you for having me here. It truly is. It's an honor for me to get to be a part of your magical process and journey. So, as Sarah said, magic community. Once you're on the inside, it's a strong bond. So you guys are welcome to reach out to me, and anytime. It's an honor to be a part of your magic. So
thank you.
Ryan?
Ron, you have a question.
Yeah, Ryan, can you do one more time, sympathetic card?
Sure, like a run through performance kind of thing.
Yeah, just one last time.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're already spotlighted.
All right. Find my prediction in here. Okay, so I've preset with my prediction underneath.
Right.
And I'm just going to set it on the edge so I can pick it up easily.
Ooh. Sorry, just spilled a deck of cards on the floor.
Part of the magic process.
52 pickup, it is.
Okay. So this deck can be shuffled, mixed up, whatever. This is my arena of psychic focus. You can see right there. And I'm going to put a card on there, and I'm going to give you a very brief moment, because this is based on intuition, to see if that's the card you want. If not, I'll get rid of it. So we'll go through. I got to stand up, apparently. Can't do it at that angle. Okay. Oh, I didn't ask anyone to say stop. Hey, Ron, you're here.
Yeah, stop. Stop.
Okay, that one?
That's fine.
Okay, you have a chance to change your mind if you want to keep going. No, you're good. Okay, so you could have picked any of those ones. You could have picked any of these, but you picked this one. Now, I thought that might be the case, because look, it says, I predict. What do I predict? That you will stop on the 3 of clubs, and there it is.
Very smooth. Very nice. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
One thing, when I was playing about this, I noticed that, there's different angles at which you can do this move.
Right.
Because if you're standing this way, you can do it that way. But I found it to cover the best. I found if I kind of aim it towards my audience,
right,
that covers it the best.
Yeah.
It's almost like Sudhir did with holding up the card. It just blocks it for that split second, which breaks the continuity.
Oh gosh.
And yeah, it looks perfect, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks really good. Looks really good.
And I think part of that is that he really does have the card, the force card in his hand at the same angle in exactly the same position. So when he moves the card, it's like the force card is left in exactly the right place. So it just continues to exist exactly where it ought to.
Yeah, that was one thing. This is a little detail that wasn't in the book, but I just figured out while playing with it, is that idea of putting your thumb on there is not just practical, it's part of the deception. Because in the book, it's just like, the card's on there, and you pick it up. But you can see even in that moment, like something changes
Right.
compared to your thumb being on there. And it,
Right,
and it
it's
just
perfect.
strengthens that,
Yes.
what Sarah said was the retention of the vision.
Plus,
It's the same.
plus by
looks the
doing
same.
that, Ryan, when you do that, you're also making sure that it doesn't slide that card and end up in a different position when you
Yeah.
have your thumb on it.
Yeah, it's just
a lot
very,
safer.
very much justified as a
Yeah.
practical thing that, you know, you
Yeah.
don't want that to slip away. So you put your thumb on it. Because you'll
Yeah,
notice
it's
when I
very
do
good.
it, the card lands on there. Who knows where it lands? So I do
Right.
take a moment to slip it under my thumb.
Yeah, really
And,
nice.
you know, it makes sense. There's a
Right,
reason you do that is so it doesn't fall off. But
Right.
it also sets up. So you just need to
Very
make
good.
sure,
Yeah,
in order to do that, make sure your prediction, whatever you use, is the width is that you can get your thumbs across there.
Right.
One thing to keep, because if you have a big thing and you can't reach.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you.
The other thing about this switch is think about the pace at which you do it. Because if you do it really fast, that's a common thing amongst beginners, is that they try and rush it when they do something sneaky, but it only draws attention to the fact that you're trying to do something sneaky.
Yeah.
If you try and rush it. So just at a natural pace, you reach over and you pick it up.
Very nice.
There's
Thank
no
you.
rushing involved.
Thank you.
A lot of magic, and as you watch a lot of magicians, I find in my experience, I'm hard to fool because I pay attention to body language in general. And I find it's not actually the move that gives you away, it's your shoulders and, you know, your body as a whole is what's going to give you away. Because when you do a move, you stiffen up. Your arm changes, you know, your arm locks in position before you do a move. And so keeping your body loose and relaxed is one of the biggest things to make your magic deceptive.
thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Ryan.
You're
Thank
very
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
I just hope the person I watch tomorrow is half as good as you.
Yeah, what he's talking about, I'm doing a lecture tomorrow, which is not necessarily just for beginning magicians, it'll cover the whole range of things, including a lot of the magic that I've created. So I don't necessarily want to plug it, but
You
it's
can if you want.
it's available.
Is it on SAM?
Because it's free to register. It's not me actually putting it on. I was asked to do it by somebody else. I'll put a link in the chat room, which
Sure,
let
that's
me
fine.
double check that's the right link first. It's a lecture. I know, you know, I'm sure you all are really anxious to watch football tomorrow, but if not,
I think I must have it somewhere. Hang on. Nope, that's from my local assembly.
JD Stewart, is that the,
yeah, JD Stewart is the fellow hosting it, the New
Okay,
Magic
it's,
Academy,
yeah,
and
I got
there
it.
it is. So it's newmagicacademy.com/Ryan, and it takes you to a Zoom registration page. But it's free to join in. And if you enjoyed my ramblings today, we have more of it tomorrow.
What time is the lecture, Ryan?
It is, I think it's the same
2 p.m.
time as this, isn't it? 3 p.m.
I thought I said 2.
Eastern time.
Yeah, 3 p.m. Eastern,
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, Central, 2 p.m.
2 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Mountain, noon Pacific, and 10 o'clock in Hawaii.
Yeah. So yeah, that'll be a ramble into much more random topics and all sorts of different tricks.
8 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. I'm gonna keep going till you stop me.
It's my favorite topic in magic is the creativity side of things, and so my lecture is a lot about creating magic and how I don't like to teach a trick, like in that here's a trick and this is how you do it. I like to teach the options, as you saw today. Magic books are like cookbooks to me. I'm not looking for the finished meal. I'm looking for ingredients and how to prepare those ingredients, and then I can create the finished product to my own tastes.
Yeah, Ryan, never bake.
Yeah, I'm not a baker. I'm not a baker because that's a
Baking is
specific
precision work.
science. I'm a cook that is like, oh, what do I have in the fridge? Okay, see what I can do.
All right. Any other questions? All right, and you know the improvising, the figuring out options and so on. That becomes a lot easier as you learn more about magic and kind of get a feel for what the traditions are and why we do things the way we do them.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you can't break the rules, but if you understand what the usual options are, there are often reasons that we do things that way, and then you can choose whether to follow the rules or to break them. So often people start by doing things as written, and then branch out more later.
Yeah.
And we'll talk some more as the class goes about what's okay to perform as written, when it's okay to imitate somebody else's work, and when certain performers' choices are off limits. So I have some strong ideas about that, and we will discuss those on another day.
Yeah,
as Ryan heard the other day.
I often look to other art forms to see how they do things, and there's the traditional idea of painting, and you think back to the Renaissance era of painting. The idea was you would study with the master painter, and you'd be an apprentice of that painter, and you would repeat brushstroke by brushstroke that master's work, and you would essentially duplicate the work of your master in order to learn the technique. And that's certainly one way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, I was listening to a talk by Victor Wooten, who is a musician, a bass player, and he had an interesting analogy that stuck with me. Was that you see a kid playing air guitar, and he's got a big smile on his face. He's just loving it, playing air guitar, imagining himself as a guitar player. And then you give him a guitar and start to teach him, and that smile goes away. And it takes a while for a guitar player to get that smile back, because they're given these, this is how you do it, and you got to learn these chords and this scale. So I feel like there's two sides to that in magic. And
well, I mean, the music in the kid's head from flailing around is better than the music they're going to get when they actually flail around. So
for sure, yeah,
they got to build some skill first before they can play the guitar.
Yeah, I'm less of a linear person, I guess is what it is. So
okay, but yeah, I mean, there's work that goes into everything, and as the class goes, you'll learn a few things that require a little more technique, and those require practice. And there are performers that I greatly admire who put, what does the Malcolm Gladwell talk about? The 10,000
hours.
For whom 10,000 hours is just the beginning.
Yeah. And,
there is a level of dedication and commitment that they put in that allows them to do things. It's like watching the Olympics. You watch the ice skaters, and that's it's that level of skill. And I will never be one of those performers because I am not willing to put in that kind of time, and so I will never be able to do what they can do.
And yeah, I mean, all the legends in magic are legends because they're very good at one very limited thing. They're very good at their 8-minute act, and that's all they do. Or they're very good at this one trick that they're known for. That's why I will never be particularly well known. It's because I change it every time. I'm always doing a different show and a different lecture. And
That's a really good thing to remember, though, is that, if for those of us who are, more interested in having a broader, a broader participation, I'm never going to do the same 8-minute act 500 times in a year. I'm not going to do it. It's just not how my life is.
Yeah.
So, I will not hone an act to that level. But that's what it takes to be great at that one thing. What we're doing does require practice, but what I like to focus on is the presentation and what ending shall I pick, and how shall I frame the trick. And that's what I love about the way you teach, Ryan, is that you really are focused on options and what's gonna suit my taste and personality, and I get to pick. And I really love that approach.
thank you. Yeah, my background is in improvisation. I started in like improv comedy, like whose line is it anyway kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I started in that at pretty much the same time I got into magic, and so the two have grown up together in me and who I am, which is very, very different than the traditional magic world.
Very unusual.
Magic is about, I think of Tommy Wonder as being the extreme on the other side, where it's like super meticulous, detail oriented. You do this and then that happens, and fraction of a millimeter off, and it's all, the magic I do has to be durable enough to survive me. The stuff that makes it into my show has to be bendable without breaking, because on the spur of the moment, I will say something I've never said before. I will do something I've never done before, and I have to figure out, I need to adapt on my feet to make it all work out, which is pretty unusual in the magic world, I think.
I think so, yeah. So is there anything that you do that that you really don't? I mean, does something get burned in to the point where you've made all the choices and picked the way you like best, and that's the way you're going to do it?
And I find this actually to be a pretty universal truth, is that the magic we learn in the first 3 years of being a magician is the magic that's stuck with you for the rest of your life.
That's an
So
interesting theory.
there are tricks that I learned in my early years that I would still perform, and they're things that I've done thousands of times, and it's hard not to deviate, or it's hard to deviate from them because it's such a well-worn path.
Okay.
I will often look for opportunities to deviate, but
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, so maybe today some of the tricks you learned today will stick with you. Actually, that's because I say the first 3 years, but I think the first maybe 6 months or a year, we purposely abandon those tricks. So it's years 2 to 3 that really stick with you.
So don't bother remembering anything that you learn in this class?
Well, I don't know where.
Is that what you're telling us, Ryan?
No, I'm saying it comes back to what I said earlier. We will look for something more complicated.
Okay, so let's talk just briefly about. So you're gonna go. The class, the students are gonna well, they're already home, but they will leave class and then presumably practice, because that was the oath that we all solemnly swore. So we're gonna go over your notes, go back over the book, practice the routine until you've got it solid, and you can do it without thinking too much about it. And then you're gonna start thinking about how you want to present it and how do you want to frame it. What do you want to tell a story? Do you want to you know, what do you want to talk about as you do it? And then what ending do you want? And in several of these tricks, we have discussed multiple different endings. You know, if you're going to do the sympathetic, the last one, you know, what do you want your prediction to look like? How do you want that to, you know, what do you want that to be? Any suggestions for them? And then, you know, once you feel comfortable, try it for a friend, try it for a family member. Any suggestions, Ryan, as they go through that process?
Sure. One thing about performing as an amateur magician, the weirdest thing about it is performing for people who know you. And when you look at the magic videos coming out and the tricks coming out and the demo videos that you watch, it's always magicians performing for strangers, which is incredibly different than performing for people you know. Performing for people you know is much more difficult. Because they know you. They know when you do something out of the ordinary. They know when you're putting on an act. So it's a challenge to perform for friends and family. So even though it seems scarier, it's actually easier to perform for strangers. Yeah. I know the state of the world, it's a lot more difficult to just find people on the street and show them a trick. But ultimately, that's a good habit to try. You know, when you meet someone for coffee, show them a trick. Look for those opportunities to find a fresh audience, because as we said, we don't repeat a trick. So the difference between an amateur and a professional magician is an amateur magician finds new tricks to show the same audience, but a professional magician does the same tricks for new audiences.
That's a really good point, Ryan. So that's a great thing to think about, is that once you're ready to perform it, try to find a new audience. Find, you know, that yeah. When, if you are in a place and a time when you are able to encounter new people, that
yeah. And I think that's the difference between the tricks that stick with us for many years and the ones that don't.
Yeah.
Is when you start performing it for strangers and you do it over and over and over and over again, that'll stick with you.
Well, absolutely. It's that repetition. And you will make mistakes, and we all do. And you know,
it's also great about performing for strangers. They'll never see you again.
And it doesn't matter.
If I could just say something quickly, what Ryan said about people, your friends and family know you. When there was a trick I was trying to do, and it involved a piece of jewelry, which was a magnet, and then some balls. Anyway, the trick was fine. The magic was fine, except my goddaughter said, "Lauren, you never wear jewelry. What's that ring doing on your finger?" And I mean, that blew the trick. I mean, because that was part of the trick. I needed the ring because it was a magnet. So yeah, it is hard to. People do know you, and if you do anything out of the ordinary, they zero in on that.
Yeah, good point.
I see Henry's got his hand up.
Yeah, Ryan, going back to one of your earlier subjects, so for a beginner like me, for example, are you advocating that when we set out, that one specialize in a certain area of magic, like cards or linking rings or sponge balls or coins? You know, there's a whole realm of things. Do you advocate a person specializing in a particular area, like cards, coins, or
yeah, I don't. The short answer is I don't advocate that. I think especially as a newer magician, try everything and be open to trying all these different things. It's like, you know, or go back to the cooking analogy, taste all the flavors of magic.
That's my trademark.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. So we can't talk about flavors of magic, but taste different things.
I like it. Lead in. All right.
Eventually you might find one that appeals to you more than any other, and you'll go down that path. I would specifically caution about card tricks because it's an easy trap. Because in magic, it's 90% card tricks. And I've met a lot of magicians who have been in magic over 10 years and they only know card tricks. And there's a whole world of magic out there. It's a little harder to find. It's under the surface, maybe. It's not card tricks. So don't choose before you know what you're missing.
Yeah. Good. I agree. Right on. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there, and I think that when you find a technique that you like or a prop that you like, it is seductive to stick with it because you invest all this time learning how to work with cards or coins or whatever the particular prop is. But I think unless under rare circumstances, if you're going to perform more than one trick at a time for a person, or more than, you can probably get away with a couple, but any more than two, I would say you kind of got to change it up a little bit because there's just a limit to how many card tricks an audience will watch. You got to change it up a little bit just to give it some visual difference. And it depends on what your goals are.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, again, if you're performing for your family and you need a new trick every couple of weeks, you'll probably have to try everything.
Yeah.
But I think most magicians, the process is that you see somebody else doing something and it appeals to you, and then you kind of chase it down, whether that means buying it or finding it in the book or what have you. So just follow where your interest and inspiration leads.
Since we've gone down this path, I will not do my full rant, but since we're here, let's at least be clear that magicians are enormously sharing and enormously creative. In the magic community, when somebody is performing something in their act, it is not available to be copied. Whether it's a line, whether it's a move, a particular routine. If it's published in a book or you're purchasing the prop and it comes with a routine, then you've purchased it. It's in a magazine. It's been published and released to the world. So if you have purchased the effect, whether it's by purchasing a book or a routine or a prop or whatever it is, then you can do it. But it is we do not condone watching somebody else perform and then copying what they do, just out of having seen
without permission.
Without their permission,
yeah.
Right?
But Sarah, does that work for doing it for their family and friends and not for public for price?
I'm gonna say ethically, I don't care who you're performing it for.
Okay.
It is out of respect for the performer, out of respect for the community. There is so much material that is available from magazines, from books, routines, props that you can purchase in magic, stuff that you can purchase legitimately that has been released, videos, downloads, all that stuff. If somebody has not yet released something that they have created, let it be.
Okay.
And yes, I do feel strongly about that. This is why we can have a sharing community, and why we can teach each other and share our work. Because if somebody was just training the next group of people that are going to come and free ride off of their hard work, they wouldn't share anything.
Mm-hmm.
So we can only have the community that we have because we respect that limit. Sorry, Ryan, I cut you off.
No, I cut you off. I was just going to say, there's been a number of magicians throughout the history of magic who have withdrawn from the community and stopped sharing and stopped giving their creations because they were getting repeatedly, ripped off or disrespected or stolen from, and they just said, never mind. So the more to me, it's the foundation of it is just respecting the effort it takes to create a performance and create a magic trick, and how much work goes into that.
It's, I mean, to create something, can take years worth of work and an iterative process of creating it and then ripping it apart and trying again, and figuring out how to do it technically and how to present it and working out the kinks, and and I've had people come up to me after a show and say, wow, that was fantastic, I'm gonna do that. And and I mean, just brazen, and I'm kind of blown away. I'm so blown away by it that like I don't have a good response, because punching them in the nose never seems like an option. And on the one hand, I get that they're giving me a compliment on some level because they liked it so much they wish it was them. On the other hand, this piece that they just saw was the product of years worth of blood, sweat, and tears. And to say, to walk up and say, oh, I'm gonna take that, it's a punch in the gut. I mean, it feels awful. So it hurts the community.
What about the tricks that are taught by club members to the other club members? I mean, they're openly sharing it, as opposed to you trying to watch their trick and then say, I'm going to perform this, and they haven't taught you that.
If they're teaching it,
right,
then you could then
okay.
The implication in the magic community is if they are teaching it, then you have permission to do it.
Right,
and presumably they have the appropriate permissions to teach it.
Right.
I think in practice, that's a very big presumption.
It is. But
there's, especially in magic clubs, because magicians are, I think I said this earlier, they're so excited to know the secret, they're also excited to share it.
Yeah.
And so often you'll see magicians who buy a trick and they love it and they're so excited about it, they want to share it with other magicians, but they don't actually have that right to do so.
Yeah.
Because ultimately what it comes down to is if I create a trick and I sell it as a trick, one person buys it and they share it with 10 people at their club. Well, I've just lost 10 people who might have rewarded me for my effort by buying my trick. So that's unfortunately really common, I think, in magic clubs to kind of not, share a little too freely.
I mean,
share things that aren't yours to share.
Right. I mean, there was a time, back in the day. I mean, when magicians traveled around and lectured at magic clubs, and then they would, at the end of the lecture, they sell, whatever, if they had, gimmicks or stuff to sell, or lecture notes, or a book or something, and it was a thing at magic clubs that sometimes people would, one person would buy the lecture notes and then they'd photocopy them for 10 other people.
Wow.
And that's not okay. I have booked lecturers. I know what lecturing pays, and it's not a whole lot. And the magicians, what makes it worthwhile is that people buy their stuff at the end of the night, and all it does is discourage people from lecturing and frustrate the people that we really want going around and teaching. And you save a couple of bucks, but it breaks the system.
Yeah.
So if somebody's charging $20 for a set of lecture notes, if you like the lecture, buy the lecture notes. If you want to do something from the lecture, you don't have to, but don't photocopy them.
Yeah, I think the key, there's so many gray areas and things like challenges about how to define this. I think here's the simple way to think about it. is that everything you perform, you should be able to point to the source of where you got it from and have that be a legitimate source. So I do this trick. I learned it from this book that I bought. I learned it from this lecture that I attended.
Right.
I learned it from, this video. And you got to be careful about those sources, because if it's, I downloaded from some weird website,
Right. Yeah.
that's not a source. That's a photocopy. But just being able to know your source, I think, is the way to keep yourself on the right path.
And you are all members of the SAM, so you get the magazine. And in addition to getting the monthly magazine, through the website, you have access to the entire run of the magazine. And so in all the years that the magazine has existed, there is so much magic that has been published in that magazine. So you have access to a lot of material. A book like, oh, there go more cards. There are like 4 left on the table, and they're all going to go by the end of this conversation.
That's how we know the meeting's done. It's like the sands of time through an hourglass.
Once Sarah has completely made a mess, that's when we know that it's time. But something like the Mark Wilson course, it has so much in it. You could be busy for years with just that book. So, be respectful. I think Ryan has it right. Know where your stuff comes from and have it be a legitimate source. So, although it did make me think of one particular routine where it's like, well, I read a thing by a guy in this newsletter that I got, and then I took another idea from over here, and then I took this other thought and I mushed them all together. But yes, I
think ethics, as you know very well, Sarah, it's a personal thing, and there is no, it's not a black and white. It's where you are on that spectrum and what you feel comfortable with.
I'm going to disagree with you a little bit there, because I don't think it's a personal thing. I think ethics are a community thing.
Okay.
Ethics, yeah. My theory, my philosophy of ethics is that ethics are rules that a community makes so that we can have the kind of community we want. And
yeah.
So if we want a community where people publish and share and lecture and teach, then in order to encourage that, we need to respect that things that aren't lectured on are off limits. And I think that anybody who works in the or talks about ethics in magic will draw that same line, that if it's published, that you're allowed to use it. If it's not published, then it's off limits, unless you have some sort of personal permission. And then there's also a sort of a newfangled idea. So there's some people who are publishing instructions or releasing magic tricks that have a reservation of some rights. You can perform it here, but not there. You can perform it live, but not in Chicago. You can, do it, live, but not on the internet. And there's an interesting conversation going on as to what restrictions are okay and whether that's enforceable. So the community, the vote is not yet in on that one.
Well, like for example, and I'm just asking Sarah this question now. You're welcome to listen in. There's one thing I do that I think is more extreme in the ethics department.
Okay.
That again is for my personal satisfaction, but I don't expect anyone else to agree with me on this.
Okay.
Is that my source? Let's say it's a book. I buy that book. I perform that trick.
Okay.
My version of it is that I that book is like a certificate that allows me to perform that trick. And if I sell or give away that book, I lose the right to that trick.
Yes, that's the general consensus.
Is it the general?
Yeah.
Oh, I've never encountered other people that feel that way.
That's the book is your license that you've purchased the rights.
Okay.
Because otherwise, if the book represents the license to do the trick, I'm sorry, if the book doesn't represent the license to do the trick, then there's no reason not to teach it to somebody else.
Yeah, it creates copies of the idea.
It creates,
Yeah.
right, it creates copies of the idea, of the information, and more, copies of the trick out in the world being performed without the person who put it out giving more license, selling more licenses.
Yeah, that's how I deal with it. I've honestly never encountered, at least not many people who feel that way. They think I've read a book, the information is now within me, and I can sell the book and buy a different book.
The folks I know that with whom I'm also, you probably don't know this, I'm also on the ethics committee of the SAM. And in my day job, I'm a lawyer. So, I'm a big geek about stuff like this. That being said, I'm not currently, I'm not speaking for the SAM ethics committee. My opinions are solely my own and not those of my employer or my organization.
Oh, you're a lawyer. Okay.
Five disclaimers. Sorry. But that being said, the people with whom I discuss ethics, and we do have a little geeky club, that is the general consensus, that if the book is your license, and it fits how the law works, because if the book is your license, if buying the book gives me the license, the book represents the license. And so if the book is in somebody else's possession, that doesn't mean that there are now two licenses. There's still only the one license, and somebody's got to have that. So if I have it, somebody else can't. I don't have the right to replicate the license.
So
yeah.
So as a lawyer, do magicians at all try to patent their tricks?
I'm so glad you asked. That is a fascinating question.
We are getting the full lecture today. This is great.
I was also wondering about copyright with regard to tricks too.
Because you are talking to the owner of Own Your Magic, a magician's guide to protecting your intellectual property.
I like it.
Thank you very much. I was not planning to use this as a thank you, Linda. Oh, Linda, this is great. Linda, what can you unmute? Where are you? Oh, there you are.
I'm here.
Yes, Linda. Before we get into the Yumi's question, Linda was a little late in the chat, but give us your 2 cents.
Ethics indeed is based upon the community, and the community has to agree on a code of ethics.
Well, for those of us who aren't reading the chat, tell us what you put in there.
Well, I said that ethics is a community construct. I used to be a director of research ethics at a university. And I used to teach the ABC of ethics, and the A was agree. Your community had to agree on the code of ethics. Yeah.
So thank you. I always let people talk when they tell me they're going to say I'm right.
So I have a CPA, so there's like boards that regulate things like that. So there needs to have these ethical things enforceable. There has to be, it's not like you get a magician's license, right? So I can see where it's very difficult to enforce these ethics.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's, magicians enforce, we enforce our ethics in really 2 ways. One of which is kind of community shaming. If you behave sufficiently badly, other people will not let you play in their sandbox.
Which can get out of hand sometimes.
Absolutely. It's because, and it's imperfect, because if 2 people are having a dispute and one of them is very popular and the other one is not as popular or not as well known, it's not a perfect system. It may not even be a great system, but it's the one we got. The other way is the SAM has a code of ethics. And if somebody violates that code and there's a complaint, the SAM Ethics Committee will investigate, hold a hearing, and issue some sort of sanctions if it's warranted, up to and including booting somebody from the organization. What impact that has on your life and your career is a whole nother set of questions. But since we run the SAM and not the world, we can only impact what happens within the SAM.
Yeah, that's kind of the, like, we're talking about the community standard. That's the community within the community.
Right.
The SAM members within the Magic community, and there's the IBM members that have their own, very similar joint code of ethics, but
Right.
or the local Magic club is its own community of ethics, and they have different policies.
But part of it is, in any community, if you behave like a jerk, people won't want to hang out with you.
Oh man, that's why.
Yes, Julie.
So I read, but yeah, the instance that I read about was so long ago, the laws may have been different. What I had heard was that well, at least during Houdini's time, that you couldn't copyright a trick. So like he had an effect that he wanted to protect. So he wrote it out as a script and then copyrighted the script. Like, how does copyright impact this stuff?
Okay. I was really not planning on doing the lecture today.
Chapter 3.
Okay, so I'm going to do patents real quick, and then I'll get into the copyright and the Houdini story. And I'm going to do it in super fast time, and it's going to be fascinating. But this is, thank you so much for asking, because you've given me opportunity to geek out on one of my absolute favorite topics. Okay, so do magicians patent? Yes, absolutely. Magicians do patent, have patented, but a lot of magicians don't, because A, it is expensive, and B, their patents have strict limitations. So if you get a patent, it has to fit certain requirements. It has to be new, unique, and non-obvious. And there are certain technical requirements, but a lot of magic creations are based on existing principles. So patents are going to be a little tricky to get sometimes. Also, patent applications are public. And then I revert to the old story that we don't like people to know how we do our tricks.
That makes
so so magicians don't like to patent for a few reasons, and this actually bit Horace Golden in the behind. Horace Golden got a patent on the prop he used for sewing through a woman, and it's questionable whether he should have been issued a patent by the US Patent and Trademark Office at all, given what P.T. Selvett was doing in the UK, but that's a story for another day. But he got a patent here in the US and then sued the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company because Camel Cigarettes put out a series of ads which exposed how magicians did a variety of tricks, including sewing through a woman. And he sued in the Southern District of New York. The federal court said, no, you have a patent. They are not using your patent. They are just talking about your patent, and they're allowed to do that because in getting a patent, you exchange that 20-year strong exclusivity period where you're the only person who can use it for the information about how it works. So you have given that information to the public, and R.J. Reynolds and Camel Cigarettes are allowed to talk about it. So
wow.
There was a legal version of that, but it was the legal version of. So patents are definitely possible if your creation fits certain very specific requirements. Copyright is challenging. You can copyright a script, but what most magicians really want to protect is the plot of a trick. Like, I do this and then this happens, like the idea of sewing a person in half. You can't own the idea of sewing a person in half. You can own the prop, you can own the script that you use, but you can't own the concept. So I can't stop somebody else from doing a trick where somebody gets sawed in half. Okay. So the the particular trick that Houdini was concerned about was his upside down, the water torture cell.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
He did not want to copyright it. And so he decided to try, I'm sorry, he did not want to patent it. So he
Right.
decided to go for copyright, and nothing you can copyright about the plot. So what he did is he exactly as you said, he wrote this play. It was performed, in some obscure theater in the countryside for one night for an obscene amount of money. So with the idea, he didn't want anybody to see this thing. He wrote the script. He in it starred as Harry Houdini, an escape artist, in a role that was dramatically challenging for him, I'm sure. And so one night, just so that he could say it's done, it's been performed, because that was the requirement at that point to get the copyright protection. Whether that would have actually provided him with any protection if somebody else had built a water torture cell and performed it is unknown, is untested, and I suspect the answer is no. There's a more recent case. Teller sued a Belgian magician, Bernard Doge, for a variety of claims, including a copyright claim on shadows, which is a beautiful piece of magic. And he actually won, including on the copyright claim, because it's actually a silent piece, but he had written down the choreography. And you can copyright choreography. He had registered his copyright many years ago, and so the imitator, the defendant, had copied it pretty thoroughly.
Oh.
So it's not just the idea. So it's not that somebody couldn't have done the trick with a different storyline, but they had just copied his script. Make sense?
Yeah.
I know I went through that.
So with the Teller thing, what was being copied was basically a choreography. It wasn't how the effect itself was done. You could take how the effect itself was done and create a whole new choreography or script to it, and then that would not be the same.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's I say I believe so because I'm a lawyer and I'm incapable of saying anything definite without
no, I understand
that I can point to that says here is the court saying that it can be done.
Right.
But yes, that's pretty much the gist of it. You can copyright the script. So the example for that is in 1926, Think a Drink Hoffman sued Name a Drink Count Maurice in Florida State Court. And yes, I'm a big geek. Why do you ask? For copying, for performing any drink called for. And any drink called for is a routine. You have a cocktail shaker and you invite the audience to name a drink. You pour the drink that they've selected, you give it to them. Another person names a drink, you pour that drink out of the same cocktail shaker and so forth. So, any drink that's named, you can pour from this, cocktail shaker or whatever you're using. The court said, no, Think a Drink Hoffman did not own the trick, any drink called for. So Name a Drink Count Maurice, Maurice Glazier, was allowed to perform the trick. However, Glazier was also using the same script that Hoffman was using in what was his original script.
Oh.
And so the court said no, that Glazier was enjoined, was forbidden from using that same script. He could do the trick, but he had to say something different.
Oh, okay.
So that's a case that's pretty much dead on that issue.
Okay. Wow. Cool.
Yeah, who knew that existed? Okay, so we have what about Matt King's Cloak of Invisibility? I'm not sure what you mean by what about it.
It's not a magic trick, it's just a part of his comedy act.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that can be used?
Legally or ethically?
Either way.
I I would say ethically, no. I wouldn't do a bit about that because it's a significant and well-known part of his act, and I think that I would stay away from that because that's, you know, that's kind of his thing. Legally, the concept of a cloak of invisibility exists in the world.
Harry Potter has one.
Right.
That's true. I believe that Matt King's predates the Harry Potter books. But I would also say that the concept of a cloak of invisibility long predates Matt King's performance as well. I mean, this is a fantasy concept that's existed for forever. I wouldn't know, you know, I wouldn't begin to imagine who came up with that idea. So I would say that if you wanted to do a joke or a bit about a cloak of invisibility, you could do one. I would want to make sure that it looked and
Wasn't a
felt
poncho?
significant. I'm sorry?
That it wasn't a rain poncho?
Yeah, I would want it to be something that looks and feels significantly different than Matt King's, because otherwise you're just a Matt King ripoff, and that's not interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think this is where everyone draws their line on the ethics side of it, because it's like, okay, so Matt King does the trick, cards across, 3 cards disappear from over here and reappear over here. Old trick, not his trick. His thing is that he does it with the rain poncho and jokes about being invisible. That's his bit, essentially. So the question is, where do you draw the line? What if you wear a rain cloak and pretend to be invisible but do a different trick? Is that stealing Matt King's bit? Or what if you do cards across and you pretend to be invisible, but you wear a hat that makes you invisible? Is that okay? You know, you have to decide if you're inspired by that idea. There's a line somewhere in there about how much you need to change it before it becomes your own idea.
Yeah, and I you know, yes, okay, you're right that that's a harder line to find. It's not as well defined. And so I think that part of that analysis, and I think for me, a large part of that analysis is going to be if somebody looking at that, who's aware of the original, who's aware of Matt King and his use of the idea, is going to see what you're doing and go, oh yeah, that's his bit. If you take it and make it somehow your own in some way, and I'm trying to come up with off the cuff something that would feel qualitative, you know, feel really different, and I'm blanking because I'm blanking. But if it feels really different, then I would say, you know, doing something with a cloak of invisibility is okay. But if it feels like it's a reference to Matt King, then I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Because almost any magic trick you do on stage could be explained by being invisible. So you could do a lot of tricks under that same premise.
Yeah.
But you could be invisible in a way that's again feels different. Like if you dance around the stage and go, ooh, then you're doing Matt King. But if you are invisible in a unique artistic way, then I think you can draw that inspiration from Matt King, do a different trick under the concept premise of invisibility, and it's okay.
I mean, okay, so if I was trying to come up with a different like invisibility idea, I might put on a full body green screen catsuit. And that would be how I would express being.
Pull the curtain down to have a green background.
No green background, just the green catsuit. Because to me, it would be funny that we all recognize that the green screen clothing is indicative of something that you never get to see. And yet the fact that I could not be more obviously visible would be funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some friends of mine have done that actually. They have a screen, they use an orange one, and the apprentice is totally in an orange bodysuit that matches, and it's hysterical. It's not the cloak of invisibility, but it is a obvious,
concept, right.
obvious, funny, you're invisible, but you're not.
Right. So it's using that same idea that I am now invisible, even though you can see me, we're all going to agree that I have some indicia of invisibility. I am invoking the concept of invisibility. And although in a different way than Matt King is, and now I am going to make the magic happen in some fashion, I would say that that's okay. But I'm not talking about a cloak of invisibility, and it doesn't feel like I'm copying Matt King's act. So that's kind of where how that comes out. You know, you have I'm a big fan of remixing, just like, you know, musicians want to write a new piece of music. They don't like lock themselves in a closet and try and wipe their brain clean of everything they've ever heard. I think being inspired by other things is great. I think, you know, taking an idea is great. But then you've got to do something new with it. You know, you've got to take it someplace new. You've got to remix it through something else. You know, and that takes time and work. So, any other questions? We have now run an entire hour over our time.
And a bonus ethics lecture. But I think this is the reason we brought this up today, because it's important as you come into the magic community to understand the rules of that community. So it's an important thing to consider.
Yeah. Because you will, if you treat others well, and play by the rules. I mean, I have, okay. So during the course of the pandemic, I actually emailed somebody that I had met him once at an event, and I saw him perform an effect, a routine that I loved. And I mean, most of my stuff, I like to create my own stuff and my own presentation. And I fell in love with this routine. And so I emailed him and I kind of reintroduced myself, and we haven't, I was hoping to run into him in person, and then the pandemic happened and so on. And I said, I would love to do this. Here's a little bit about the kind of stuff that I do. Would you be willing to teach that to me? And he emailed it to me and then offered to Zoom with me to help me learn the routine. And so what I did was I then used the part that he gave me, which I still love, and then I added on a whole second section that I wrote. But because in my opinion, there's nothing that can't be made better by being made more complicated. But that's just how, that's just.
Oh, you're a lawyer, you say.
But that's how my brain works, and I would not necessarily recommend it to a friend. But I think partly because I went to him respectfully and asked for, and introduced myself and gave some credentials and went and asked for his help. He very generously gave me the routine, and I was blown away. I'm so delighted that he decided to share that with me. And a lot of magicians will do that, but you have to show that you respect the traditions of the community. So we want to make sure that you understand that too. Okay, thank you all so much. We all have homework to do over the next couple of weeks, and I look forward to seeing what you have learned and accomplished. And well, this was fun.
Thank you for your time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all so much. And Ryan, you were wonderful. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryan.
It was fun.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
You are welcome back anytime.
Oh, I might, you better mean it. I might.
You don't scare me.
Okay.
All right, we'll talk
Thank you.
later.
Bye.